Hey guys, tonight we're going to slip back through the dusty folds of time and stand with you in the shadow of the mighty walls of Constantinople. You stand on the dry, cracked road outside the city, the ancient stones glowing with a sleepy warmth under the setting sun. The air smells of sweat and tallow smoke, and each gust of wind carries the acrid scent of gunpowder. Your feet ache in your worn-out sandals, dust creeping between your toes like it's determined to claim you for itself and the distance. The Ottomans are setting up their first monstrous cannon, the Basilica Cannon, a beast of bronze and iron, grumbling like a sleepy giant as it's nudged into place. The great barrel points at the city walls like a patient predator, ready to chew through ancient defenses that have withstood centuries. You watch the soldiers shuffle around it, some of them excited, others glancing nervously at the city's massive towers, already whispering that no mortal cannon can crack them. You lean against a cart that smells like overripe figs, your ears tuned to the distant sounds of Constantinople. The ring of hammer on anvil, the distant chanting of priests promising divine protection, the chatter of merchants who seem absurdly determined to sell their wares no matter how close war looms. Even the goats on the outskirts bleat lazily, chewing cud with a bored indifference to the coming storm. The Ottoman soldiers, mostly young men, many still smelling of fresh sweat and old horses, swap jokes as they heave more cannonballs into neat pyramids. You overhear one boasting that he'll crack the city like a walnut by dawn. His friend shakes his head with a smile that says, "Good luck with that, mate." Historians still argue whether these soldiers really believed in the might of their cannons or were just desperate to keep their spirits from sinking into their boots. You take a sip from your water skin, tasting the warm, almost metallic tang of iron that never seems to wash out. The city's silhouette is beautiful in the fading light. Minarets piercing the sky like thin fingers of stone, domes glinting softly. It's so serene, so heartbreakingly calm that it's almost easy to forget the thousands of lives poised to collide in these final days. The ground itself seems to tremble as the first cannon fires, a deep, bone-rattling thud that rolls out across the plain like a distant thunderstorm. The air is thick with sulfur, and the stunned silence that follows is almost as loud as the cannon itself. You flinch, but the city's walls, for now, stand firm. Dust and chunks of stone raining down like confetti in the warm evening air. A nearby Ottoman soldier spits and mutters that even the best of Mem's bombards will have to keep singing for days to make a dent. You can't help but smirk at his world-weary calm. After all, it's only the first note in a long, slow song of siegecraft. The road is still open, caravans of fresh supplies trundling along it with weary camels and stubborn mules. For a fleeting moment, the world feels like it's balancing on a knife edge, peace and destruction, life and death, all sharing the same dusty path. And as the sun slides below the horizon, you feel a strange hush settle over everything. The stars begin to prick the velvet sky, and you realize you're standing at the edge of history itself. You probably won't survive this, few ever do. But for now, your breath slows, your thoughts settle. It's the eve of the final siege of Constantinople, and you're here to see it unfold. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Inside the city's thick stone walls, you find yourself in the echoing halls of the Blachernyi Palace, where Emperor Constantine XI Paleologos paces with the restless energy of a man who knows the weight of 1,000 years presses on his shoulders. The room is cool, the flickering light of oil lamps making the ancient mosaics on the walls shimmer like half-remembered dreams. Each footfall is measured, each breath caught in the heavy air of a room that has seen too many emperors come and go. You stand to one side, watching as he speaks in low, urgent tones to his advisors. Men with faces lined by fear and sleeplessness. Maps of the city lie sprawled across the table, their edges curling under the weight of the emperor's hand. Candles drip wax onto the parchment, the dribbles of white resembling the slow erosion of an empire. Outside the thick, arched windows, the city's domes glow in the dusk like a promise that may never be kept. Constantine's eyes keep darting toward the battered city walls, then to the icons of Christ and the Virgin Mary that hang in their golden frames along the walls, as if he's asking them, silently, to intervene. You sense that he's not the sort of man who believes in divine rescue alone, though. He knows the city's fate rests on the alliances he can forge, if he can forge them at all. Historians still argue whether the emperor was truly optimistic about help arriving from the west or whether he was just playing the part of a leader to keep hope alive for those around him. Either way, tonight, he talks of Venetian galleys and Genoese warships, of the Pope's letters and the promises of the Hungarian king. You catch the names of distant cities, Venice, Rome, Ragusa, whispered like spells against the gathering night. A servant slips into the room, offering a tray of sweetmeats, little honeyed figs and dates dusted with cinnamon. You take one and taste its sticky sweetness, a reminder that even in the heart of a siege, there's a hunger for life's tiny luxuries. The emperor takes none, his mind too tangled in questions of walls and weapons to taste sugar tonight. His voice drops to a soft murmur as he speaks of the city's garrison. Too small, too tired, too patched together for men of too many lands. Italian mercenaries in bright plumed hats stand alongside grim-faced Greek farmers who never imagined they'd die in armor. Even the emperor's closest advisors seem to shrink back as he voices the unspoken fear that Mem's cannons may do what no army has done before: break the city's spirit. You shift your weight from one foot to the other, the cold marble floor biting through your sandals. A breeze from the window brings in the distant smell of smoke and sea salt. The emperor pauses, head bowed, and for a moment he looks every inch the weary man he is. Gray at the temples, lines etched deep from too many years spent trying to hold back the tide. Then he straightens, pulling himself back into the role of emperor with a faint, almost defiant smile. He speaks of honor, of the duty to protect what remains of the Roman Empire, no matter the odds. His voice grows firmer, filling the chamber with a steady, soothing cadence that almost makes you believe. Almost. And in that soft, golden lamplight, you can't help but think of how many times these walls have heard the same speeches, the same desperate prayers. Empires rise and fall, but tonight, Constantine's determination is the quiet heartbeat of a city that refuses to surrender. Outside, the night grows deeper, the hush of the city's final hours pressing in around you. And so you listen, the marble cold beneath your feet, as Emperor Constantine XI speaks of alliances. Some real, some only dreamed of, holding the fate of Constantinople in the crook of his tired elbow. Outside the city walls, the Ottomans move like shadows in the gathering twilight, setting up their tents in neat rows that stretch as far as you can see. You're drawn to the quiet confidence of Sultan Mehmed II, a man barely in his 20s yet already sure of his destiny. He sits on a low stool, the heavy air of command clinging to him like an expensive cloak. His dark eyes sweep the horizon, lingering on the glinting walls of Constantinople, and you can almost see the city already captured in his mind's eye. Mem's tense smells of sweat and rose water, the air inside thick with the quiet murmur of advisors and the scratch of quills as scribes record orders for fresh cannon shot and new trenches. Outside, the constant thud of hammers and the clatter of wheels as ox-drawn carts bring in timber and stone never stops. It's as if the earth itself is helping the Ottomans build their victory. You duck your head under the tent flap. The bright silks and gilt edges a sharp contrast to the muddy ground outside. One of Mem's generals shows him a map, thick lines of red ink marking the city's weak spots, arrows tracing possible breakthroughs. Mehmed leans over it, his fingers tapping out an impatient beat on the parchment. Historians still argue whether he was truly the military genius his admirers believed or simply a lucky young man with good advisors. But tonight you see no uncertainty in his sharp gaze. He talks of glory, of Allah's will, of the centuries of conquest behind him, and the golden city ahead. That as he speaks, you notice a small, curious detail. Mehmed wears a tiny amulet around his neck, a pale stone said to guard against betrayal. It's a reminder that even the mightiest sultans know fear in the quiet moments of the night. You shift your weight as you watch the sultan's court. Pages scurry with water jugs and sweet dates. A small brass brazier glows with the soft scent of cedar. Outside, you catch glimpses of Turkish horsemen idling near their mounts, the horses restless and snorting in the dark. You smile faintly as one of the younger soldiers tries to impress a girl from the camp kitchen with a tale of how he'll be the first to scale the walls. She laughs, but her eyes flick nervously to the city's distant towers. You wander to the edge of the encampment, where Mem's great cannon lies sprawled like a dragon at rest. Its bronze barrel catches the moonlight, each dent and scratch a testament to its brutal journey from Edirne. A young engineer explains how it was forged and dragged across muddy plains by hundreds of oxen, how it took weeks just to bring this monster here. You wonder how many of those oxen made it to see the city. As you breathe in the chill night air, a low chanting starts, Ottoman priests invoking blessings for the coming battle. Their voices rise and fall in hypnotic waves, and you find your own breathing falling into their rhythm. In the distance, a wolf howls, its lonely cry swallowed by the clang of hammer on iron. Mehmed stands at the tent's edge now, silhouetted against the flickering fires of his army. He looks older than his years in that moment, a boy king with the weight of centuries balanced in his hands. He lifts his head and gazes at the city, and you can almost see the shape of his dreams. Minarets rising where domes now stand, the city of Constantine remade in the image of the crescent moon. You stand there, a silent observer to the quiet confidence of a conqueror who believes history itself is bending to his will. And as the night deepens and the air cools, you feel a strange, steady calm settle over the Ottoman lines. A calm born not of peace, but of the certainty that the final act of this ancient drama is about to begin. The dawn breaks over Constantinople in a muted, dusty pink, the kind of soft light that usually promises peace. But today, it's the color of a breath held too long. You stand by the edge of the city moat, where men with shovels and picks labor like ants, trying to fill it in with anything they can find. Chunks of broken statues, splintered timbers, even old wine casks now stuffed with earth. Each shovel of dirt is a tiny prayer, each cartload of rubble another heartbeat of the city's determination. The moat stinks of stagnant water and algae, its dark surface reflecting the worried faces of the laborers. You watch as one old man, face creased like worn leather, mutters a half-remembered psalm with each swing of his shovel. Another younger worker beside him hums a body-drinking song, the words slipping out like a talisman against the fear tightening his gut. Historians still argue whether this frantic work was more about faith than strategy. Some say it was a hopeless gesture, others believe it bought the defenders precious days. Above them, on the ramparts, Byzantine soldiers peer down, crossbows slung over tired shoulders. They shout encouragement, but you can hear the edge in their voices, a desperate edge that says they know how close the end might be. A boy no older than 15 stops to scratch at a sore on his arm, the gesture so small and human it breaks your heart a little. This isn't a clash of empires here. It's mud, sweat, and the stubborn will to see another sunrise. The smell of the moat clings to your nose as you wander further down the line, the taste of it on your tongue like sour milk. Near a collapsed section of the city's outer wall, you find a group of priests blessing the laborers, sprinkling them with water that glitters like glass in the dawn light. The laborers barely pause, but some close their eyes as the droplets touch their skin, as if for a moment they're carried far from this muddy, perilous trench. A small boy, too young to swing a pick, stands beside his father, handing him stones one by one. You share a glance with the father. His shoulders stooped under the weight of fear and hope mixed together, and he gives you a faint smile. It's the sort of smile that says, "I know the odds, but I'll do it anyway." As you move down the moat, you spot a lone figure, a scholar in a faded green robe, sketching the work in a small leather-bound book. He glances up, his eyes bright with that scholarly glow even here, in the mud and terror. He whispers to you that he's recording this moment for posterity, because if the city falls, someone must remember how fiercely they tried. You nod, though in your heart you wonder if even the best chroniclers can capture the quiet heroism of a city refusing to give up. The morning grows warmer, the sun pushing back the chill of the night. Birds swoop low over the water, their calls sharp and indifferent. And as the sun climbs higher, you feel the first cannonball of the day slam into the city wall with a thud that rattles your bones. Dust billows, a choking, gritty cloud that coats your lips and tongue. The men in the moat barely look up, just keep shoveling, keep dragging stones and timbers and faith into that narrow, muddy space. You taste the sweat running down your cheek, feel it sting your eyes, and you realize that here, in this backbreaking work, is the soul of Constantinople, ordinary people making a stand in the face of a storm. And though you know the moat may not hold, you can't help but feel a flicker of pride at the stubborn way they keep filling it anyway. The work goes on as the day wears on, the sun burning high above. Each man, woman, and child in that moat is a tiny bulwark against the future dreams of, each shovelful of earth a quiet vow to endure. And as you turn to leave the edge of that ditch, you carry with you the scent of the moat, the weary songs of the laborers, and the heartbeat of a city that refuses to lie down just yet. You climb the steep, worn steps of the city walls, your legs burning with each careful step. Up here, above the maze of streets and the sullen moat, the city stretches out beneath you like a half-forgotten dream. The towers catch the first light of the sun, their shadows long and wavering over the red-tiled roofs and narrow alleys below on the ramparts. You find the hired hands, the Italian mercenaries who have come to fight for pay, plunder, or maybe just for the thrill of it. They're easy to spot, clad in bright plumes and fine leather, their accents thick and musical, a melody of Genoese, Venetian, and Neapolitan. They lounge in small knots, leaning on pikes and crossbows, their banter full of easy bravado. Historians still argue whether these mercenaries were the backbone of the city's defense or an unpredictable powder keg. But to you, they're just men trying to stay awake under a sky that promises thunder. One captain, a wiry man with a silver cross around his neck, shows you a dent in his helmet. He claims it was made by an Ottoman arrow, but you suspect it might have been a tavern brawl. He grins at your skepticism, winking as if to say that a good story is worth a small lie. His men laugh, one of them pulling out a battered lute to strum a half-forgotten tune that sounds oddly cheerful in the cold morning air. You lean over the battlements, feeling the rough stone beneath your palms, and watch as the mercenaries sharpen their swords and polish their shields. They talk of the last battle they fought in some far-off land, of women left behind, of debts they hope to forget with a fat purse of Byzantine gold. Their laughter is easy, but you can see the tightness in their shoulders, the way their hands hover near their weapons even as they joke. Nearby, a group of locals, Byzantine archers in patched tunics, try not to stare too long at the swaggering Italians. One of the archers, a boy with downy hair on his chin, whispers to you that the Italians are good with a blade but don't care a fig for Constantinople's fate. You nod, though you know in your bones that when the walls shake and the cannonballs fly, any man willing to stand and fight is worth his weight in prayers. A sudden clatter draws your gaze, a group of mercenaries hauling up a fresh supply of arrows and quarrels. You watch them work, the cords creaking and the baskets thumping against the stones. One of the Italians, a barrel-chested man with a nose like a hawk, curses as he nearly tips a basket over the edge, and his friends roar with laughter. You join in, the sound rising into the crisp air like a promise that life, for a moment, can still be sweet. The city below is restless, merchants hawking goods in the winding streets, women hurrying to the wells with heavy pails, children darting through alleys with stolen apples. But up here on the walls, time seems to slow. You taste the salt of the sea on the breeze, feel the rough bite of stone under your fingertips, and you wonder if these mercenaries ever pause to think about what they're really defending. One of the Italians, a young man with a fresh scar across his cheek, leans close and confides that he plans to slip away if the city falls. He's got a boat waiting, he says, in the Golden Horn. You nod and pretend not to judge, though you know the city's fate will be decided by those who stay, not those who flee. Still, you can't blame him. You'd want an escape plan, too, if you thought the walls might crumble before dawn as the sun climbs higher. The mercenaries stretch and crack their knuckles, ready for another day of watchful waiting. Their laughter is softer now, edged with the knowledge that soon they may have to prove their worth in blood and sweat. You take a last look at them, this mismatched band of adventurers, and you find yourself hoping, against the odds, that when the cannons roar again, they'll stand firm. The sun climbs higher as the day stretches on, the air warming as the shadows retreat. Below, the bustling streets of Constantinople seem almost to defy the tension that grips the walls above. Life continues, albeit in a slower, quieter way than usual. The city is holding its breath, waiting. You find yourself moving through the markets, where vendors peddle their wares with the same fervor as always, even as the distant thud of cannonballs occasionally rumbles through the ground like an errant heartbeat. The scent of spices lingers in the air, cinnamon, cloves, and the bitter tang of cumin. A woman with a baby wrapped in a cloth across her chest hands you a small loaf of bread, its crust hard and dark, its warmth comforting in your palms. You thank her and take a bite, chewing slowly, savoring the simple pleasure of something familiar in a time of looming uncertainty. A little further down the market street, a street performer entertains a crowd with his tricks. He tosses a ball high into the air, spinning and twirling like a juggler from another age. His audience is small but appreciative, clapping in rhythm with his movements, oblivious to the world just beyond the walls. You watch him for a moment, caught in the simplicity of the trick, before the distant sound of another cannonball shakes the air once more, and the spell is broken. People glance nervously at one another, but then, just as quickly, they return to their bargaining and their chatter. Historians still argue whether the city's day-to-day life in those final days was one of denial or resilience. But in the market, you can't help but feel the pull of something familiar. The laughter of children, the chatter of vendors, the smell of roasting meat on skewers. These are the things that remind you of a world that exists just beyond the siege. You move on, feeling the pull of the familiar, your feet taking you toward the great cathedral of Hagia Sophia, where prayers rise in a steady stream. The basilica's domes loom over the city like an ancient sentinel, its marble pillars glinting softly in the sun's light. Inside, the air is thick with incense, the scent heavy and sweet. The faithful move in and out of the sanctuary, their prayers quiet, but the uncertainty in their eyes is loud enough to echo through the vast chambers. A monk leans over the altar, his hands clasped in prayer, his lips moving in whispered words. He catches your eye as you pass, giving you a small, weary nod, an acknowledgement of the shared weight of this moment. You stop for a moment, your own hands stilling at your sides, feeling the deep, resonating silence that fills the cathedral. It is a silence born of waiting, of an almost tangible fear that the world is holding its breath. As you stand there, you overhear two soldiers whispering near the entrance. They talk in hushed voices, as if the words are too heavy to carry in the open. One speaks of seeing the Ottoman forces growing larger with every passing day, of more cannons arriving, more men joining Mehmed's army. The other, younger and more fearful, wonders aloud if it's all for nothing, if the defenses will hold or if the city is already lost. The older soldier silences him with a stern glance and a quiet reminder, "It's not over yet." You think about his words as you leave the cathedral, moving back into the busy streets, where life goes on despite the unease in the air. You can feel the weight of every step as you walk, the noise of the city pressing in from all sides. The city is holding its breath, waiting for something that has already begun, yet is still far off in the future. The smell of fresh bread fills the air, mixing with the scent of flowers from a nearby vendor's stall. There's a small, almost incongruous feeling of normalcy here, like the calm before the storm. You pass the baker's stall and pause, watching as he slices a loaf, the crumbs falling in a fine, delicate shower. The warmth from the oven seems to hang in the air, a small comfort amidst the rising tension. As you turn the corner, you see a small group of children playing near the city's outer gate, their laughter bright and carefree. They chase one another, darting in and out of the shadows of the buildings, their little feet kicking up dust. For a moment, you forget the weight of the siege and the looming threats, caught up in the innocent joy of their games. But even in this fleeting moment, there's a quiet tension that lingers in the air. You know the gates are still open, the city's defenses still working, but you also know that it's only a matter of time before the storm hits. The first true assault comes in the late afternoon, just as the sky starts to shift into the deep blues of twilight. You're standing on the ramparts, the breeze tugging at your tunic, when the ground shakes beneath your feet. There's a sharp, jarring boom that rolls over the city like the rumble of distant thunder. The first cannonball hits the city wall with a force that you feel all the way to your bones, even though you're dozens of feet away. You watch in silent awe as the stone wall buckles, dust clouding the air, and for a moment, it feels as though the whole world has held its breath and then exhaled in one violent, shuddering gasp. The soldiers around you snap to action immediately, shouting orders, scrambling to reinforce the walls, to move the supplies into position. The calm that once held sway over the city slips away, replaced by the frantic energy of a defense that now feels more real than ever before. The distant thud of cannonballs continues, each one hitting harder, closer. You feel a growing unease as the walls of Constantinople tremble under the force of the Ottoman bombardment. Down below, the streets are in a frenzy. Merchants abandon their stalls, and civilians scatter in every direction, seeking shelter in any doorway or alley they can find. You can hear the rise of voices, shouting, crying, calling for loved ones. It's a strange mix of chaos and organization, with some of the citizens calmly assisting one another and others simply running in fear, abandoning whatever they can't carry on the walls. The mercenaries are moving with surprising discipline, setting up crossbows and pulling up reinforcements. The Italian captains bark orders, their voices sharp against the constant rumble of the cannons. Even the Byzantines are galvanized now, their usual stoic faces hardened with determination. The ground underfoot feels like it's alive, pulsing with the power of the cannons outside. As the first breach begins to take shape, you're handed a longbow and a quiver of arrows by a nearby soldier, his face set with grim resolve. His voice is low but firm, telling you to be ready, that the walls are about to get crowded. You nod, your hands automatically adjusting to the grip of the bow, the familiar weight of the weapon grounding you in the midst of the madness. The cannonballs continue to strike, one after another, battering the ancient walls with a relentless, almost hypnotic rhythm. Dust fills the air, coating your skin in a thin layer of gray. You try to swallow, but the dust seems to clog your throat, making every breath feel heavier than the last. There's no turning back now. You realize this is the moment. The Ottomans have committed, and you, like everyone else in the city, are now part of this final act in history. The Byzantine defenders, once scattered and unsure, now move with a newfound urgency. You can see them pulling stones, dragging wooden beams, and setting up barricades wherever they can. Their movements are practiced, born of years of fighting, of watching enemies come and go, always hoping this day wouldn't come. But now that it has, they stand together, hands shaking but resolute. In the distance, you hear a prayer rise from one of the churches, low and quiet, like a wind carrying the weight of 1,000 hopes. Your heart beats faster as the cannon continues to roar, each blast a reminder that the city's end is nigh. The walls are falling apart, and the thought creeps into your mind. What if today is the last day? But there's no time for such thoughts now. The air is thick with tension, the scent of gunpowder burning your nostrils, the echo of each cannonball like a drumbeat. The mercenaries are already preparing for what comes next, filling their quivers, tightening their straps, positioning themselves to cover the breach. You glance at the Byzantines beside you, their faces set, and for a moment, it seems as though all of time has paused. This moment is theirs. This city, this legacy, they will fight for it, tooth and nail, as long as they can. And so you raise your bow, fitting an arrow into place, eyes fixed on the growing gap in the walls. The city's breath holds in unison, and you can't help but think that, in the end, it's not the walls or the cannons that matter. It's the people, the fighters, the ones who refuse to surrender. And as you release the first arrow, you realize that you, too, are part of this final stand. The breach is widening now, a jagged mouth opening up in the ancient stone walls, and as the Ottoman forces push forward, you feel the ground shake beneath you again, this time with the force of 1,000 marching soldiers. You shift, trying to steady your legs on the slick stone of the rampart, the dust clouding your eyes and sticking to your lips, making every breath a struggle. The air smells like smoke and gunpowder, thick with the metallic tang of blood yet to be spilled from the breach. You hear the sound of heavy footsteps, boots hitting stone, the steady thrum of a great army moving forward with all the certainty of a river breaking through a dam. The first wave of Ottoman soldiers surges forward, shields raised high, swords drawn, their faces set with the focused intensity of men who know exactly what they're fighting for. You can almost feel their hunger for victory in the air, as if the very ground underfoot is alive with their desire to claim the city. But on the walls, the defenders are ready, some of them anyway. The mercenaries are lined up, their crossbows clicking as they load, their voices low but firm. The Byzantines take their positions, too, bowmen ready, heavy infantry in position to defend the crumbling gap. You can feel the weight of the moment, the gravity of history pressing down on everyone in that place. There's a brief lull, a quiet moment before the first clash. It's in this moment that you realize how much the city is tied to this struggle. Not just its walls or its towers, but the very souls of the people inside it. You glance over at a Byzantine soldier beside you, an older man with a gray beard and a crinkled face. His hands are steady, but his eyes are full of something else. A quiet, weary understanding that today could be the last day he ever sees the sky above Constantinople. But then the lull is broken by the sound of the first clash. It starts as a roar, a unified cry from the Ottoman forces as they charge forward, and then a burst of noise as the two armies collide. The sound of swords meeting shields, of armor scraping against stone, fills the air like the roar of a wild beast. You take a deep breath, steadying yourself, and knock another arrow, aiming into the chaos below. The city walls are alive with the sound of battle now. Screams, shouts, the clatter of weapons and armor as men fight desperately to hold the line. You let an arrow fly, watching it disappear into the mass of Ottoman soldiers below. Another follows, and then another, each one a silent prayer that this city, this moment in time, won't be lost forever. Historians still argue about the tactics of the defense, whether the mercenaries' precision was enough, or whether the Byzantines' tenacity held the line longer than expected. But as you fire another arrow, you don't think about strategies or battle plans. You only think about the city, its walls crumbling, its people standing together, refusing to yield. You can hear the clang of Ottoman sabers on the metal of the Byzantine shields, and for a moment, everything seems to slow down, like time itself is reluctant to move too fast as the battle rages on. You find yourself moving in a rhythm with the fight, each moment of tension matched by another deep breath, another steady release of an arrow. You are no longer just an observer. You are part of it. Your heartbeat is the city's heartbeat, and in the blur of battle you find a strange calm. For the first time since the siege began, you stop thinking about survival or escape. You think only of holding your ground. You think of the families in the city below, the children who will grow up hearing the stories of these final days. You think of the ancient walls, and you can almost feel them trembling, as though they too are afraid of the end. And then, without warning, a loud, deafening crash shakes the ramparts. The wall gives way. The breath catches in your chest as you watch the stones of the city wall crumble, the great breach now wide enough for the Ottomans to pour through in full force. A roar goes up from the Ottoman soldiers, a sound that sends a chill through your bones. The city is falling. This is the moment it all turns. The walls that once stood so proudly, holding centuries of history, are now nothing but rubble and dust. You release another arrow, but this time, it feels different, like the weight of it has shifted. You've fired many arrows in your life, but none with this feeling. For the first time, you wonder if this might be the last one you ever fire. The silence that follows the crash of the wall is unlike anything you've ever experienced. It's not the peace of victory, nor the stillness of fear, but a heavy, almost suffocating pause. The sounds of battle seem to fade for just a moment, and all that fills the space between breaths is the sound of the dust settling, the crunch of stone on stone. It's as if the city itself is holding its breath, waiting for the next wave of destruction to come crashing in. You glance around the ramparts, your eyes flicking from one side to the other, trying to make sense of the chaos now unfolding below. The Ottoman soldiers, seeing their chance, surge forward, their shields raised high, their war cries rising in a unified roar. It's a sound you can't shake, that wild, desperate cry of men who know they are on the verge of their long-sought victory. But you know that the Byzantines won't give up so easily. There's a fierce determination on the faces of the defenders. They may be outnumbered, they may be tired, but they are still here, and they will not simply step aside. The mercenaries line up along the walls, crossbows in hand, ready to fire, while the Byzantine soldiers below push forward with shields and swords, fighting with a desperate fervor. You feel a surge of adrenaline, your pulse quickening as you raise your bow again, knocking another arrow. The world around you has narrowed down to a single focus point. The space between you and the men below, the desperate need to protect what's left of this city. You release the arrow, watching it arc through the air and disappear into the chaos below. Every shot feels like it's part of something larger now. Every flick of the wrist, every pull of the bowstring, is an attempt to keep this moment alive. The city might fall, but at least for a brief moment it stands. You fire again, and then again, your hands moving in practiced precision, as if you've done this 1,000 times before. The world outside the ramparts is a blur of motion. Ottoman soldiers flooding through the breach, Byzantine soldiers retreating only to regroup, forming new lines of defense wherever they can. You see a flash of silver, the gleam of swords clashing in the pale light of the setting sun, the high-pitched screech of metal on metal. The battle has become a blur of violence, each clash of swords a reminder of just how far this fight has come. And yet, even in the chaos, there is something hauntingly beautiful about the struggle. The soldiers on both sides are caught in a dance that has been repeating for centuries. Men fighting for land, for power, for survival. Their struggle is timeless, and you are caught in the middle of it, a single player in a much larger drama. You glance down the ramparts and see a group of soldiers fighting hand to hand, their faces grim, their bodies slick with sweat and blood. The air is thick with the smell of gunpowder and the sharper tang of blood, mixing together in a scent that makes your stomach turn. But there's no time for hesitation. You pull another arrow from your quiver and ready yourself for another shot. The sun is setting now, casting long shadows over the battlefield. It's as if the world is preparing for something more, something final. The distant thud of cannon fire continues, but it is no longer the sound of a distant attack. It's the sound of the city, of its final moments, of the end of an era. You fire another arrow, your breath steady, your hands calm. The battle rages on below, the clash of steel and the cries of soldiers mingling with the roar of the cannonballs. But here, on the ramparts, it feels as though time itself is slowing down. The world is moving in slow motion, each moment hanging in the balance, waiting to tip one way or the other. The Ottoman forces are close now. You can see them filling the gap in the wall, their soldiers pouring through with the relentless force of a tide. The defenders are holding their ground, but you can feel the pressure building, the slow, inevitable shift toward collapse. And in the midst of all of this, there is you, one small figure among many shooting arrows trying to hold back the inevitable. You know the city is falling, that the walls will soon be breached completely. But for now, you fight. You fight for every inch, for every moment, for every soul who stands beside you in this desperate stand. You fight because that's all that's left. You fire again, the bowstring singing as it releases the arrow into the chaos. You don't know what will happen next, but for now, you fight with all the energy you have left. The city is falling, but for just a little while longer, it still stands. The breach widens with each passing moment, the sound of soldiers scrambling and shouting below like a tidal wave crashing against the city's fragile defenses. You watch in disbelief as Ottoman forces flood through the gaps in the walls, like water filling an empty basin, relentless and unstoppable. The sight is enough to send a chill down your spine. The battle has reached a point where victory seems no longer possible, where the city's fate is sealed in the hands of men who have fought bravely but now stand at the precipice of defeat. The defenders continue to fight, but the weight of their efforts is beginning to show. Sweat-soaked and covered in grime, they hold their positions, refusing to yield. But it's clear that the city's walls, once symbols of strength and pride, are crumbling under the onslaught. The Ottoman forces seem endless, soldiers pushing forward in waves, some wounded, some already dead, but all relentless. The smell of blood and the acrid stench of gunpowder fills the air as the once vibrant city of Constantinople begins to fall into the hands of its conquerors. You can hear the battle raging below, the clash of steel, the screams of the wounded, the roar of Ottoman soldiers shouting their victory chants as they push further into the heart of the city. You continue to fire arrows, but the ground beneath you is shaking now, as if the city itself is beginning to collapse with the weight of all that has come before it. The air is thick with smoke, and the world seems to spin as you steady yourself against the shaking battlements. A sharp cry from below snaps you back to reality. One of the Byzantine soldiers falls, his body crumpling against the stone wall. His shield slips from his fingers, and you catch a glimpse of his face. A young man, no older than 20, his eyes wide with shock and pain. His death is a reminder of the brutality of this conflict, of the lives lost, of the sacrifices made in the name of a city that now seems destined to fall. You fire another arrow, but your arms are growing heavy. Your fingers, once nimble and sure, are stiff with exhaustion. The city's defenders, too, are showing signs of wear. Their movements are slower now, their faces etched with fear and determination in equal measure. You can see it in their eyes, the recognition that the end is near, that this battle, no matter how fiercely it is fought, will not be won. And then, just as you release another arrow into the chaos below, you hear it, a deep, terrible rumble. It shakes the ground, the air, your very bones. You look up to see a massive column of smoke rising into the sky, billowing from the heart of the city. It's coming from the direction of the Grand Palace, where the last line of defense is being overrun. The city's heart is being torn apart. The sight is enough to freeze you in place. You know what it means. The palace is lost. The last hope of holding the city is gone. The walls are breached, and the Ottomans are flooding in faster than you can process. The realization hits you with the force of a punch to the stomach. This is the end. Constantinople will fall. In that moment, time seems to slow. The battle around you continues, but it feels distant, like a dream you can no longer wake from. You stand on the ramparts, watching the destruction unfold below, the weight of the past and the future bearing down on you. The city, the people, the walls, they are all fading into history. It's a strange feeling, knowing you're witnessing the final moments of an empire that has existed for over 1,000 years. You take a deep breath, steadying yourself, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions inside you. It's not fear, not exactly. It's something more profound, grief, perhaps, or maybe just the overwhelming weight of history closing in. The city is falling, and you are part of that fall. You were here, in these final hours, when Constantinople's last breath was drawn. But even as the walls crumble and the city is torn apart, you don't stop fighting. You fire another arrow and then another. You stand firm, your body aching, your mind racing, because in this final moment, it's all you can do. The world may be crumbling, but you can still fight. You can still hold the line. The final assault begins. Ottoman soldiers pour through the breach, flooding into the city in waves, their weapons gleaming in the dying light. The defenders make their last stand, but it's clear they are overwhelmed. The city's defenses crumble, and as the first Ottoman banners are raised high, the air is filled with the triumphant cries of the victors. You lower your bow and take a long, steadying breath, the reality of the moment settling over you like a heavy cloak. The city of Constantinople, the heart of an empire, is no more. History has come to a close. As the dust settles over the fallen walls of Constantinople, the city seems to fall into a deep, eerie quiet. The battle rages on in pockets, but the roar of Ottoman forces is now joined by the quieter sound of victory. It's as if the city, which had once been the jewel of the ancient world, has sighed its last breath. You stand in the middle of this moment, feeling the weight of history pressing against your chest, and for the first time, you realize that the city is no longer yours to protect. The defenders, exhausted and bloodied, begin to retreat. Some are trying to escape through the narrow streets, while others make a last stand in the small courtyards and alleys, fighting desperately against the tide of invaders. You can see the fatigue in their eyes, the resigned look of men who know they have fought to the very edge of their strength. The mercenaries, who had once been so full of bravado, now seem like shadowed figures, moving quickly and quietly, their faces etched with the understanding that they have lost this battle. You find yourself standing on the edge of a once proud street, the grand architecture of the city crumbling around you. The sound of boots on stone echoes down the alley, and you look up to see a group of Ottoman soldiers advancing, their faces hard with the grim satisfaction of victory. The first of them reaches the corner and pauses, eyeing the remnants of the city. There's something chilling in his gaze, an almost casual acknowledgement of the destruction, as if this is just another day of conquest. The streets are littered with the detritus of battle, broken shields, fallen bodies, shattered pieces of ancient stone. The grand city that had stood for centuries as a beacon of power, learning, and culture is now nothing more than a battlefield. The beauty and vibrancy of the old world reduced to rubble. You can't help but feel the weight of it, the loss of something irreplaceable, something that had once held the world's gaze in the distance. You hear the sound of a bell tolling, the mournful ring echoing through the quieted streets. It's a sound you recognize, a signal that something has ended, that something important is gone. It's a call to remember. The bell tolls again, and you can almost hear the years it has witnessed, the generations that have passed beneath it. And now, for the first time, it tolls for a city in its final hour. You step forward, your feet slow and heavy as you walk through the wreckage. There's a sense of finality now, a certainty that this is the end. You pass a fallen statue, its broken pieces scattered across the cobblestones. Its once proud face now just a jagged memory of a time that has passed. The air smells of burning wood and stone, the scent of something ancient being consumed by the flames. You feel the heat on your skin, the smoke creeping into your lungs, and you realize that there's no going back. Constantinople has fallen, and it will never be the same again. You stop for a moment in the middle of the street, watching as Ottoman soldiers march past, their boots thudding heavily on the ground. Some of them glance at you, but there's no recognition in their eyes. To them, you're just another figure in the streets, just another person caught in the final throes of a battle that has already been won. You feel invisible in that moment, as if the city's fate has swept you away along with it. And yet, amidst the destruction, there's a quiet dignity in the way the defenders still fight, in the way the people of the city hold on to what little they have left. Even as the walls come down and the city falls, there is a refusal to give in completely. They fight not just for survival, but for the memory of what Constantinople once was. A city that stood tall, proud, and eternal. You take a deep breath, the smoke and the dust filling your lungs, and you turn to walk toward the heart of the city. It's a strange feeling, knowing that you are walking through history, through the remnants of an empire that once ruled the known world. But as the sun dips below the horizon, casting the streets in an eerie twilight, you realize that it's not the city's walls that matter. It's the people. It's their strength, their courage, their refusal to let go. You make your way toward the heart of the city, toward the last stand. The battle may be over, but the story of Constantinople, of its rise and fall, will live on in the hearts of those who were here. And though the city's walls may crumble, its spirit will remain, carried by the memories of those who fought until the very end. The night after the final battle falls over Constantinople like a heavy, suffocating blanket. There are no stars in the sky, only the thick smoke rising from the crumbling city. The streets, once filled with life, are now eerily silent. You walk through the streets, each step a reminder of what's been lost. The silence is louder than any roar of battle, unbearable, almost oppressive. The air is thick with ash and the metallic scent of blood, mingled with the remnants of burning buildings. You pass through alleys where the rubble has begun to settle into quiet piles, as if the city itself is beginning to breathe again, slowly, painfully. But there is no peace to be found in this silence. The world around you feels like it is holding its breath, waiting for something to come crashing down again. You can hear the distant sounds of Ottoman soldiers in the streets, their footsteps muffled by the rubble, their voices low and respectful, as though they, too, are unsure of what to do next. Some speak of the city's treasures, others of the wealth of its churches and palaces. But the value of what's been lost can't be measured in gold or silver. Constantinople was more than just a city. It was a living, breathing entity, an embodiment of centuries of knowledge, culture, and history. You pass through a market square, the stones underfoot slick with the blood of those who fought until their last breath. The stalls that once sold goods from every corner of the empire are now empty, their colorful awnings torn and fluttering in the breeze like ghosts of the past. A small fire burns in the corner of the square, the last remnants of a merchant's stall. The flames flicker in the dark, casting long shadows across the broken ground. You stop for a moment, letting the quiet wash over you. The finality of it all is beginning to sink in. The city, this once great metropolis, has fallen. It will never be the same. You think of the people who lived here, the families who made their homes in these streets. They're gone now, scattered, lost in the chaos of war, but the city itself, the city will live on in memory, in stories. And maybe that's enough, you think. Maybe it has to be enough. But even in the midst of this tragedy, there is something deeply human about the resilience that remains. The soldiers, the defenders, they are still here even in defeat. They move through the streets in small groups, their eyes wary, their faces haunted, but they walk with a dignity that cannot be taken away. It's in the way they carry themselves, the way they hold their heads high even as the city crumbles around them. You make your way toward the Hagia Sophia, its great dome still standing, though you know it has been scarred by the battle. The doors of the cathedral are closed, but you can hear the faint sound of voices inside, perhaps the last prayers of those who have come to seek solace in the face of loss. You stop in front of the door, your hand resting on the cool stone. The building stands as a silent testament to everything Constantinople was, a place of worship, of learning, of art and culture. Now it is a relic of a past that will never return. You think of the many centuries that have passed, of the countless hands that built and rebuilt this city, of the empires that have risen and fallen beneath its shadow. And now it has come to this. A city caught between the past and the future, its fate sealed by the relentless march of time. A soft wind picks up, carrying with it the faint scent of salt water from the Bosporus. You turn your gaze toward the sea, the water reflecting the last light of the dying sun. The waves seem calm, as though the sea itself is mourning the loss of the city. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the sound of the waves wash over you. The gentle rhythm of the water, a small comfort in the face of everything that has been lost. It's strange, you think. You've witnessed the fall of an empire, the end of an era, and yet, there is still life. Still, people move through the city, still, the world turns. The Ottomans have claimed their victory, but the soul of Constantinople, its people, its culture, its heart, will endure. It will be remembered, in stories, in songs, in the pages of history. And maybe, just maybe, that's the true legacy of a city that stood the test of time. The night deepens, and with it comes a strange, quiet peace. The sounds of the battle fade into memory, and the city, for all its loss, seems to sigh, its walls finally still after centuries of conflict. The winds whisper through the empty streets, carrying with them the stories of a city that once ruled the world. You turn away from the Hagia Sophia, walking slowly into the night. You know that tomorrow will bring more changes, more destruction, but tonight, there is only the quiet. And in this quiet, you find a strange comfort. For as long as the stories are told, Constantinople will never truly fall. Its heart will remain forever. The next morning, the city of Constantinople wakes to the stark reality of its new existence. The sun rises slowly, casting a pale, almost ghostly light over the broken city. You walk through the streets again, moving through a landscape that is now unfamiliar. Once a vibrant, bustling hub, now reduced to ruin and ashes. There are soldiers everywhere, Ottoman soldiers who move through the streets with the same relentless energy they had on the battlefield. Their faces are set, their movements purposeful, as they begin to claim the city that was once the jewel of the Eastern Roman Empire. But even in the midst of all this change, the city itself seems to have a strange resilience. The buildings that still stand, however cracked and broken, are like silent witnesses to 1,000 years of history. The streets, now littered with debris, seem to echo with the footsteps of those who lived and died here. The people of the city, those who are left, move through the rubble, gathering what they can, trying to make sense of a world that has shifted in an instant. You find yourself walking toward the Hippodrome, the grand arena that once echoed with the sounds of chariot races and the roars of cheering crowds. Now it stands silent, a place of memory, its great columns rising like giants against the sky. The space feels different today, empty in a way that makes your heart ache. The memory of the games, the triumphs, the crowds, those days are gone now. This is a different world, a world where everything has changed. But even here, amidst the ruin, there is a strange sense of continuity. People move through the Hippodrome, some cleaning the debris, others simply wandering, lost in thought. A group of children plays near the great obelisk, their laughter a fleeting moment of lightness in a place that now seems heavy with history. You stop for a moment, watching them, and you realize that even in the darkest of times, life finds a way to continue. The city may be broken, but its spirit, its soul, lives on in these small moments, in the laughter of children, in the determination of those who refuse to be swept away. You move on, your feet taking you through the narrow streets that lead toward the great palace. The gates are open now, the palace unguarded, and you step inside. The courtyard, once filled with the sounds of bustling attendants, is now eerily quiet. The grand marble floors are cracked, and the once gleaming columns are stained with soot and ash. The air is thick with the scent of smoke, a reminder of the destruction that has come to pass. Yet, there's something undeniably beautiful about the palace's stillness. The sunlight filters through the broken windows, casting long shadows on the floor, and for a moment, you feel like you are walking through a forgotten dream. You move deeper into the palace, past the remnants of the throne room, where the emperor once held court, and into the private chambers. The rooms are abandoned now, their lavish tapestries torn and their furniture overturned. But there's something haunting about the emptiness. The remnants of a once great civilization lie scattered, pieces of history that can never be fully restored. You pause in the middle of the room, your eyes drawn to a small, forgotten artifact. A broken statue of an ancient emperor, its face chipped and its body cracked, yet still regal in its own way. The image of that emperor, once proud, now reduced to rubble, seems to capture the essence of Constantinople itself. This city, which has known so much glory, now stands in the aftermath of its fall, broken but still holding on to the memory of its greatness. Historians will debate the fall of Constantinople for centuries to come. They will argue over the reasons, the strategies, the politics, and the personalities that played a part in the city's collapse. Some will point to the cannons, others to the political failures of the empire. But you know, as you stand in the ruins of this once great city, that history is never just about battles and strategies. It's about the people, their lives, their dreams, their hopes. The city has fallen, but it has not been forgotten. Its story will live on, passed down through generations, carried on the winds of time like a whisper in the night. And in that whisper, there will be a reminder of what Constantinople was, of what it meant to the world, and of the courage and resilience of those who lived and died here. As the sun continues to rise, you make your way out of the palace and back into the streets. The city may be broken, but it is not defeated. Its people may be scattered, but they will always carry with them the memory of what this city once was. And as you walk through the streets, past the broken walls and the shattered buildings, you realize that the spirit of Constantinople will never truly fall. It lives on, in the hearts of those who remember, in the stories that will be told for centuries to come. The day stretches on, and the once bright city of Constantinople is slowly shifting from the chaos of battle to a strange, new reality. The Ottomans move through the streets with military precision, securing key locations, while others begin to search for valuables, raiding whatever is left behind. But amidst the sounds of marching and murmurs of conquest, the people of the city, those who remain, seem caught between two worlds. The past they have just lost, and the uncertain future that now looms. You stand in the middle of a once bustling market street, watching as life carries on, albeit in a different form. The vendors are gone, replaced by Ottoman soldiers who haul away sacks of goods that once belonged to the city's merchants. A few remnants of the market stalls remain, overturned crates and baskets, forgotten wares half buried under the dust. You see a few women, Byzantine women, standing near the ruins, their faces hard with grief, their eyes vacant. They move through the broken market, still holding on to the remnants of their past. You find yourself wandering through these streets, unable to shake the weight of what's happening around you. The transformation is so quick, so dramatic, that it almost feels surreal. The once proud Byzantine Empire is no more. The streets that had echoed with the chatter of traders and the clinking of coins are now silent except for the steady march of Ottoman troops. You feel the deep, undeniable sense of loss in every corner you turn. Passing through a narrow alley, you spot a group of young Ottoman soldiers standing in a circle, laughing. They have taken a moment of respite from the chaos, their swords leaning against the wall as they share food and jokes. It's an odd sight, a celebration in the midst of destruction. But you can see the weariness in their eyes too, the understanding that they have claimed this city, but at a price. The laughter seems out of place, and yet, there's something undeniably human about it. A reminder that even in the worst of times, life continues. These soldiers, too, have their stories. stories that will be passed down for generations, just as the stories of the defenders of Constantinople will. You move further into the city, eventually reaching the Golden Horn. The water is calm now, reflecting the fading light of the day. The ships of the Ottoman fleet are anchored along the shore, their sails tattered from the siege but still standing proud. You stand there for a moment, watching the ripples in the water, the reflection of the sky mixing with the black silhouettes of the ships. The quiet of the scene seems almost peaceful, but the peace feels hollow, like it's been forced on the city in the wake of violence. That as you stare out at the water, you feel a strange sense of finality. This place, once a beacon of power and knowledge, is now a symbol of loss. You can almost hear the ghostly whispers of those who once walked these streets, their voices carried on the wind. There were poets here, scholars, soldiers, and kings. There was a time when this city was the center of the world, a place where empires were made, where history was written. And now, in this moment, all of that has been reduced to rubble and ash. You think of the Emperor Constantine XI, the last ruler of the Byzantine Empire, and wonder what his final moments must have been like. Historians still debate whether he died fighting on the walls or whether he fled into the streets in the final hours of the city's fall. Some say he made a last, desperate attempt to rally the people, while others believe he chose to die with his city, rather than surrender. But the truth, lost to time, will never be known for sure. What remains is the memory of the last emperor, the last stand of an empire that once seemed invincible. You shift your gaze back to the water, where the ships of the Ottomans now dominate the horizon. The once vibrant city of Constantinople has become a shadow of its former self, a reminder of what was lost. The city's legacy will live on, carried in the stories and memories of those who fought, who died, and who lived within its walls. But the city itself, with all its grandeur and history, is gone. It has passed into history, into legend. The sun sinks lower, casting the Golden Horn in a soft, orange glow. The sounds of the city seem to fade, replaced by the soft lapping of the water against the docks. You take a final, lingering look at the city that once was, and as you walk away, you realize that no matter how much time passes, the memory of Constantinople, of its rise and fall, will never fade. It will live on, not just in the history books, but in the hearts of those who remember. The days that follow the fall of Constantinople are heavy with the weight of what has been lost, but also filled with the uncertain murmur of what is yet to come. The city is a quiet battlefield now, a place where the past and future are locked in an unspoken struggle. The Ottoman forces have claimed the city, their banners waving proudly over the broken skyline, but there's no real celebration. Instead, there is a sense of anticipation, a city in transition, one that will never be the same again. You walk through the streets in the days after the siege, watching as Ottoman soldiers and Byzantine civilians alike begin to pick through the wreckage, salvaging what they can. The marketplace, once a riot of colors and noise, is now a collection of half-empty stalls and abandoned carts. The dust of battle still hangs in the air, mingling with the smells of burning wood and the faint scent of decay. The grand architecture of Constantinople stands as a stark reminder of what has been lost, the broken domes and shattered windows reflecting the fading light of the day. But even amidst the ruins, life moves forward. Slowly, the Ottoman forces begin to impose order. The soldiers, once caught up in the frenzy of conquest, now work to secure the city, to restore some sense of normalcy to the wreckage. The city's streets are lined with Ottoman soldiers who, despite their victory, are still adjusting to the unfamiliar landscape of a once great city now under their control. You see them speaking in low voices as they help the remaining citizens remove debris, rebuild homes, and attempt to make sense of what's left. For the few remaining Byzantines who haven't fled or been driven into hiding, there is a feeling of helplessness in the air. The remnants of the once proud Byzantine nobility are scattered, their power crushed by the weight of the siege and the Ottoman advance. But among the rubble, there is also a quiet, stubborn spirit, an unspoken resolve that the memory of this city will not fade so easily. The Byzantines might have lost their empire, but their legacy is not so easily erased. One evening, as the sky deepens into a dusky purple, you find yourself standing before the ruins of the great palace once again. The quiet of the place feels almost sacred, as if the building itself still holds the memory of all that occurred within its walls. You walk through the palace's shattered corridors, stepping over fallen columns and pieces of broken stone. The sounds of the city seem far away now, replaced by the soft echo of your footsteps against the marble floor and the stillness. You can almost hear the voices of the emperors who once ruled here, their quiet conversations, their plans, their victories, and their failures. The grand halls, now empty, seem to speak to you, whispers from a time long past, reminding you of the greatness that once was. The walls, though cracked and crumbling, still stand as silent sentinels to the city's history. It's a strange feeling, walking through these spaces that were once filled with the bustle of court life, now silent and abandoned. You can almost feel the weight of centuries pressing down on you. And yet, as you stand there, you realize that this city, this empire, will never be truly gone. The memories of Constantinople, the stories of its rulers, its people, and its triumphs, will live on in the hearts of those who remember. Though the city may be conquered, it has not been erased. It will live on in the minds of historians, in the words of poets, and in the memory of those who once called it home. That as the light fades and the night settles in, you make your way toward the Bosporus. The waters are calm now, the surface reflecting the fading light of the day. The city, once filled with the sounds of life, is now a place of quiet reflection. The Ottoman ships rest on the water's edge, their sails flapping gently in the evening breeze. The Golden Horn, which once saw the passage of great ships, now seems still, its waters mirroring the stillness of the city. You pause for a moment, letting the cool night air wash over you. There is a deep peace in this silence, a sense of finality that settles over the city like a blanket. Constantinople has fallen, and the world has shifted in ways you cannot fully comprehend. But in the stillness of the evening, there is a strange sense of acceptance. The city is gone, but its legacy lives on. The stories of Constantinople will continue to be told, passed down through generations, carried by the winds of time. The fall of Constantinople is not the end of its story. It is simply a new chapter, one that will be written by those who remember, by those who hold its memory in their hearts. And as you stand by the water, watching the stars begin to emerge in the night sky, you realize that this city, this incredible place, will never truly be lost. It lives on in the stories, in the memories, in the hearts of those who carry its legacy forward. Days turn into weeks, and the days of intense battle and victory begin to settle into a rhythm of uneasy occupation. The Ottomans are in control now, but it feels almost as though they, too, are treading carefully, tentatively, as if afraid to fully embrace the overwhelming weight of their conquest. The streets, which were once filled with the sounds of imperial proclamations, religious ceremonies, and vibrant trade, are now punctuated only by the orders of Ottoman soldiers and the quiet murmurs of the few remaining Byzantines who wander through the wreckage. You walk through the streets again, your steps slower now, as the reality of the city's transformation becomes clearer with each passing day. The air is filled with the distant hum of reconstruction. Ottoman engineers working to stabilize buildings, clearing away rubble, and preparing for what comes next. The Byzantine structures that once stood tall and proud are now punctured with the marks of Ottoman cannons, or repurposed by new hands for new purposes. The old palaces, once the homes of emperors, now house Ottoman officials and soldiers, their opulence replaced with the starkness of military efficiency. As you walk past the Palace of Blacherny, its once grand courtyard filled with gold and marble, you can't help but wonder what the people who once lived here would have thought, had they seen it now, reduced to a military post. The vast, cold halls that were once filled with laughter, music, and discussion of imperial affairs are now silent except for the shuffle of boots across the marble floors. But in the midst of the change, there are signs of life. You stop in a small square near the Hagia Sophia, a place once crowded with pilgrims and traders, now quiet and subdued, as Ottoman merchants set up new stalls and Ottoman soldiers keep watch. The remnants of the city's grand mosaic floors peek through the dust, their once vibrant colors now faded. As if trying to hold onto something of their former glory, a merchant from Anatolia sets up a stall beside the broken columns of a long-forgotten temple. He's peddling fruit, pomegranates, figs, and olives. strange new goods for an old, unfamiliar city. His hands work quickly, unloading his wares, and when he looks up, he gives you a warm, if somewhat weary, smile. He speaks to you in broken Greek, gesturing toward his fruit as if to offer some token of peace, some vestige of normalcy in a city now strung with the tension of occupation. Despite the change that hangs thick in the air, there's still a spark in the city. As you wander past the remains of the great palace, a memory of the once vibrant life in its halls dances briefly in your mind. An emperor, his advisors, the sound of revelry and grandeur. Those times are gone, but the people who lived through them, who remembered what it was like to stand on top of the world, still carry those memories in their hearts. You can almost feel the weight of their gaze upon the city they once loved. Not far from the Hagia Sophia, you find a small group of Byzantine priests, quietly sitting on the steps of a destroyed church. They've gathered in the quiet hours of the morning, speaking softly in low voices, as though trying to preserve what little is left of the old ways. Their black robes, now a stark contrast against the rubble and the new Ottoman flags fluttering in the breeze, seem almost like a solemn nod to what has been lost: faith, culture, a legacy that stretches back for centuries. But in their quiet gathering, there's a sense of defiance. Even in defeat, they are holding on to something intangible, something that no conqueror can take away. It's in the murmured prayers, the soft rustling of old scriptures, the steady glint of determination in their eyes. Point one of the priests, noticing you, looks up and offers you a thin, sad smile, as if acknowledging your shared grief. He speaks softly, in a tone that carries the weight of years of history. This city was a dream, he says, and though its walls have fallen, its soul still lingers here, in the streets, in the people. You nod, knowing that his words, simple and quiet as they are, contain a truth that cannot be erased. The walls may fall, the empire may crumble, but the spirit of Constantinople, the culture, the stories, the people will live on. It will live on in the hearts of those who remember. As the day continues, you find yourself wandering towards the Bosporus again, the cool breeze carrying the salt of the sea with it. The water is calm, its surface now an uninterrupted mirror of the sky. Ottoman ships are anchored nearby, the sails taut and full as they wait, ever ready for the next journey. The once great harbor of Constantinople, filled with the bustling sounds of trade from every corner of the empire, is now eerily quiet. Yet you can't help but feel that, in some strange way, the heart of the city still beats. The Bosporus, though it no longer sees the ships of a great empire, still sees life move in the quiet dance of water and wind. And perhaps, in this small act of continuity, the soul of Constantinople finds its peace. The city has been claimed by the Ottomans, but its story is not over. For as long as there are those who remember, Constantinople will live on. Its history will continue to shape the world, long after the last stone has crumbled. You take a deep breath, feeling the weight of the city's memory in your chest. The sun dips low in the sky, and the calm of the Bosporus reflects the stillness of the city. The battle may be over, but the story, in all its beauty and pain, is far from finished. The city that once held the world's gaze will continue to echo in the hearts of those who were there, who remember, and who carry its legacy with them. The quiet after the storm is often the hardest to bear. The fall of Constantinople has changed everything, and yet, as the weeks pass, the city begins to settle into a new rhythm. The Ottomans, in their victory, begin to impose their own order on the city, but the transition is far from seamless. The cultural clash between the newly arrived Ottoman rulers and the ancient Byzantine legacy that lingers within the city's bones is palpable. The architecture, the streets, even the people themselves, everything is caught in the tension between the old world and the new. As you walk through the streets now, you notice how life continues, but with a quiet, almost reluctant acceptance. The merchants, though few, have returned to their stalls, and the remnants of the once bustling marketplace are beginning to take shape again, albeit with a different rhythm. There's a strange mix of cultures now, a mingling of Ottoman and Byzantine, as the people adapt to their new reality. Some of the older Byzantines walk through the streets with heads held low, while others simply go about their daily routines, their expressions a quiet mask of resilience. You stop near the Hagia Sophia once again, its towering dome a reminder of the power and beauty that once defined Constantinople. Though the Ottomans have converted the great church into a mosque, its majesty remains undeniable. The once golden mosaics now seem muted, but they still catch the light in a way that speaks to a past that can never be fully erased. As you stand there, the voices of the Ottoman muezzin echo across the courtyard, their call to prayer carrying through the air like an invitation to the divine. The city's identity is shifting, yes, but it is not disappearing. There's a certain grace in how the Ottomans, while asserting their dominance, have also begun to incorporate aspects of the old world into their own. The Hagia Sophia is a testament to this blending, the mosque's towering minarets rising above the cathedral's ancient domes, a fusion of two worlds that seems to coexist peacefully, at least on the surface. But beneath the surface, there's a sense of quiet tension, a reminder that even in peace, change brings its own challenges. You walk through the streets, your eyes drawn to the bustling crowds. The Ottomans are slowly taking over, but the remnants of Byzantium remain, scattered through the city like small fragments of a lost world. You spot a group of Byzantine artisans, their work now relegated to small, hidden corners of the city, creating beautiful mosaics and paintings that will be sold in secret to those who remember. Their work speaks volumes about the persistence of culture. Even in the face of occupation, one elderly woman, dressed in the tattered remains of what was once a fine robe, hunches over a small stall, selling jewelry she has crafted by hand. Her hands are shaking with age, but her eyes are sharp, filled with the wisdom of a life spent in the service of the empire. She looks up at you for a moment, her expression unreadable, before she turns her attention back to the beads in front of her. It's a quiet act of defiance, a small refusal to let the old ways slip entirely away. You continue walking, the city's transformation unfolding before you like the pages of a forgotten book. It's clear now that Constantinople is no longer the imperial powerhouse it once was. Its empire has crumbled, its walls have fallen, and its glory has been extinguished by the tides of history. But there is something undeniably beautiful in its resilience. The city, like its people, continues on, adapting, bending, but never fully breaking. The streets are still full of life, but now that life is different. The citizens of Constantinople move through their day-to-day lives with a quiet grace, a hum of normalcy that belies the upheaval that has shaped their world. You pass by a small cafe, its wooden sign swaying gently in the breeze, the smell of freshly baked bread wafting out into the street. A group of men sit at a table, talking in hushed tones, while women move past, their faces veiled and eyes downcast. The city is still alive, but it is no longer the same. You come to the Golden Horn once again, the waters shimmering softly in the light of the setting sun. The ships of the Ottoman fleet are anchored nearby, their sails furled, their crews resting after a long day of work. The water is calm, a gentle reflection of the sky above. The city that once ruled the seas is now a mere shadow of its former self. But there is still a beauty in this moment of quiet transition as you stand by the water's edge. The city stretched out before you, you realize that the story of Constantinople is far from over. It may have fallen, but it has not been erased. The memories of the city, the stories of its people, will continue to live on, carried in the hearts of those who remember. The empire may have crumbled, but the spirit of the city endures. The stars begin to twinkle in the night sky, their light reflected in the still waters of the Bosporus. The city has fallen, but in the hearts of those who remain, Constantinople lives on. It is no longer an empire, no longer a beacon of power, but it is still a city. And that, in the end, is enough. The days blend together now, each one passing like a quiet echo of the last. The Ottoman forces have fully entrenched themselves within the heart of Constantinople, their influence spreading slowly, almost methodically. The city, while still a shell of its former self, is being rebuilt, reclaimed in a way, but it's a strange reclamation. It is a city split in two, a living memory of its glorious past, mixed with the weight of its new rulers and their customs. You find yourself walking the streets again, but this time with a different purpose. The remnants of the old city seem almost more vibrant, in a way, now that they are being overshadowed by the Ottomans. It's a bizarre contrast. The ancient stones of Byzantine structures standing side by side with the newer Ottoman constructions, their styles so different, their purposes intertwined in this new city that never fully forgets its history. You pass by a group of Ottoman soldiers as they work to clear rubble from one of the many fallen buildings, their swords gleaming in the midday sun. They move with a practiced efficiency, their faces set in hard lines, but there's a weariness there too, a quiet acknowledgement of the years of fighting that have brought them to this point. One of them glances at you as you pass, and for a brief moment your eyes meet. His expression is unreadable, but in his gaze you sense something, perhaps the realization that even in their victory, there are sacrifices, things that cannot be easily claimed. The city feels different now, as though its spirit has been reshaped in the wake of the Ottoman conquest. But even in this shift, there's a quiet resilience in the air. The streets still hum with life, merchants calling out their wares, children playing in the narrow alleys, artisans continuing their craft as best as they can. And then there are those who still walk in the shadow of the city's former glory, their eyes distant, caught between the world they once knew and the new one that is being forced upon them. One afternoon, you make your way down to the Hippodrome, the great arena that once hosted chariot races and public games, a symbol of Byzantine power and influence. Now, the space is eerily quiet, a few Ottoman soldiers casually moving through the arena, seemingly indifferent to the history beneath their feet. The columns that once supported the emperor's box are cracked, and the great obelisk in the center stands as a forgotten relic of the past, its once dazzling gold now dulled by the passage of time. You can't help but linger here, your feet pressing against the worn stones that once saw the spectacle of victory and defeat. There's a weight in this place, a weight that is both heavy and light at once. It's the weight of time itself, of an empire that has risen and fallen, of a city that has witnessed centuries of triumphs and tragedies. The Hippodrome, now silent, serves as a reminder of all that was once here, all that was once part of the world. As you stand there, you notice a group of children running through the arena, laughing and shouting as they play games of their own making. The sound of their laughter is strange in this place, as if they're unaware of the significance of the ground they're standing on. They've likely never heard the stories of the grand chariot races that once filled this space. They don't know what it once meant to stand here, to witness the spectacle of power that was Constantinople. And yet, in their joy, in their simple play, they capture something of the city's spirit, a spirit that refuses to be entirely erased, a spirit that lives on in the hearts of the people, in their ability to endure. You watch them for a moment, lost in their innocence, and realize that the city, in a way, continues. The grand buildings may fall, the empires may crumble, but life moves forward. People adapt. They rebuild. They continue to live, to hope, to dream. The city may have fallen, but its soul, its resilience, remains. As you leave the Hippodrome and make your way back through the streets, you notice that the Ottoman influence is spreading more visibly now. New mosques are rising alongside the remnants of churches. The muezzin's call rings out across the city, filling the air with its deep, melodic tone. And yet, for all the change, the old city still lingers, just beneath the surface, like a memory you can't quite shake. The Byzantines, though defeated, are not silent. You pass by one of the old churches, where a group of elderly men are gathered, speaking in low tones. Their eyes, too, carry the weight of memory, the memory of a time when the city was theirs, when it stood at the crossroads of the world. Their words are quiet, but there's a sense of quiet pride in them. They may have lost their empire, but they have not lost their identity. They are still here, still holding on to the pieces of a world that no longer exists, still passing down the stories of their city to the next generation. You turn down another street, lost in thought, and realize that Constantinople, in its final moments, has left something indelible behind. Even in its fall, even in the face of conquest, it has imparted something to those who lived within it, to those who remember its glory and its loss. You can feel it in the air as you walk, in the footsteps of those who have walked these streets before, in the whispers of history that linger like the faintest of breezes. And you know, deep in your heart, that this city, this incredible, vibrant, tragic city, will never be truly gone. It lives on, not in the buildings that stand or the flags that fly, but in the hearts of the people who remember. Constantinople has fallen, but its story will be carried forward, echoing across time, in the voices of those who refuse to forget. Weeks pass, and Constantinople settles deeper into its new identity. The daily life of the city now carries the distinct mark of Ottoman rule, but there are whispers, soft murmurs in the shadows, of what was once here. The older buildings, crumbling under the pressure of time and conquest, still stand as silent witnesses to a history that can never be erased. As the Ottomans continue to make their mark, you notice the signs of change everywhere. New mosques rising alongside the remnants of Byzantine churches, the old Byzantine language fading into the background, replaced by the rhythmic cadence of Turkish in the streets. Yet, despite the transformation, something within the city refuses to yield. It's the spirit of Constantinople, the legacy of centuries of empires, of thinkers, poets, and rulers. A city that was once the beating heart of a mighty empire. It's in the eyes of the old men who still gather in the back corners of cafes, their heads bent low as they speak in quiet tones of the city that was. It's in the way the people continue their lives, despite the overwhelming changes. They hold on to their memories, even when those memories are all they have left. You find yourself walking once more through the streets, but this time, there's a sense of detachment, of witnessing a city that is no longer yours to protect, but still yours to remember. The once grand avenues that led to the emperor's palace are now quieter, less filled with the clamor of imperial orders, but there is still a sense of purpose in the movements of the people. They move, they work, they rebuild, but they do so with the quiet dignity of those who know that their world has been irrevocably altered. You pass by a small group of workers, toiling away to repair one of the churches that survived the siege. They are cleaning the crumbling frescoes that still adorn the walls, their brushes working in slow, careful strokes, as if each touch of the brush is an act of defiance against the inevitable changes. The paint, once vibrant, is now faded with time, but the workers treat it as if it were a sacred duty. Preserving what little of the old world they can, nearby, you spot a group of children playing in the street, their laughter rising into the air like a gentle reminder of what is still possible. They run through the narrow alleyways, playing games that have been passed down from generation to generation, even though they no longer fully understand their meaning. They are the city's future, inheriting the legacy of a place that has seen the rise and fall of empires, the ebb and flow of history. The contrast is striking. The old men sitting in the shadows, the children running through the streets, and the soldiers moving in and out of the city like sentinels. The old world and the new side by side. You feel the weight of it all, the merging of two worlds that seem impossibly different, but have been woven together in this city's fabric. The walls of Constantinople may have crumbled, but the spirit of the city remains, a quiet undercurrent that runs through every street, every building, every heart. As you continue to walk through the city, you find yourself drawn once again to the Bosporus, where the water still shimmers in the light of the setting sun. The ships of the Ottoman Navy are anchored in the harbor, their sails billowing in the breeze. The once bustling docks are quieter now, but you can still feel the pulse of the sea, the lifeblood of a city that once ruled the waters. The water has always been a part of Constantinople. It was both its protector and its path to greatness. Even now, as the city has fallen, the water remains. You stand there for a long time, watching the ships on the horizon. The wind carries the scent of salt water, and for a moment, you feel like you're standing in the past, in the time when Constantinople was the center of the world. It's a fleeting sensation, a whisper of what was, but it's enough to make you realize that, despite everything, the city has not truly gone. It lives on in the memories of those who were here, in the hearts of those who carry its story forward. As the last light of the day fades, you make your way back through the quiet streets. The city has changed, but it is not lost. The Ottoman forces have claimed victory, but they cannot erase what came before them. The spirit of Constantinople, the soul of the city, lives on in the people who remain, those who remember, those who carry its history with them. The day ends with the quiet hum of the city, its streets now calm, its people moving through the world with the same quiet dignity they've always had. The city is different, yes, but it is still Constantinople. And for as long as there are people who remember, it will never truly fall. Months slip by, and the city slowly shifts again, its identity continuing to evolve under the reign of the Ottomans. The sound of construction is a constant now. Brick by brick, stone by stone, the city is being rebuilt, reshaped into something new. The great cathedral of Hagia Sophia, once the center of Byzantine Christianity, now stands as a mosque, its massive dome still casting shadows over the city. The minarets rise like fingers to the sky, an indelible mark of the new rule. Yet, even with all the change, there's something haunting about it, a reminder that what was once here can never be completely replaced. You walk through the streets, observing the slow and steady transformation. The once opulent palaces of the Byzantine emperors are now repurposed for Ottoman officials, soldiers, and administrators. Some buildings are demolished entirely, while others are merely adapted, their ancient stones and mosaics hidden behind the new facades that reflect Ottoman architectural styles. The contrast is striking. Ornate Byzantine reliefs hidden under plain walls, the old world masked by the new. But there are still pockets of the old Constantinople scattered throughout the city, stubbornly clinging to life amid the changes. In the back alleys, Byzantine artisans continue their craft. Woodworkers, weavers, and stone carvers, working quietly in the shadows. Some of them, are making pieces to sell to the new rulers, while others are simply trying to preserve a bit of their past. You stop by a small workshop where a man is chiseling away at a piece of marble, carving intricate patterns into it with the precision of a master. He doesn't look up as you pass, focused entirely on his work. But there's a sense of quiet pride in his movements, a knowledge that the legacy of Constantinople is still being carried forward, even in the smallest of ways. You continue on your way, your steps leading you through the streets that have been marked by centuries of history. As you pass the ruined walls of the great palace, you can't help but think of the emperors who once walked here, their footsteps echoing in these same corridors. Now, the palace is a shell of its former self, its grand halls empty and silent. The once vibrant gardens are overgrown with weeds, and the great halls, where the city's rulers once held court, are filled only with dust and debris. But still, there's a faint trace of the past in the air, as if the echoes of those ancient voices still linger. The sound of voices rises from a nearby street, Ottoman soldiers, speaking in low tones as they walk together, their laughter loud against the backdrop of a city that feels quieter than it ever has. They're discussing something, plans, perhaps, or the next conquest. But the words are lost in the wind. What remains is the sound of their footsteps, the movement of the city's new rulers, marking their presence in the ruins of what came before. The sense of change is everywhere, but it's a quiet change, one that is taking root so deeply that it is almost unnoticeable, like the slow shift of the seasons. The old Byzantine world is slipping away, but the city that remains is still Constantinople, still full of life, still echoing with the voices of those who once lived here. You stop at a small cafe near the edge of the Bosporus, the water stretching out before you, its surface reflecting the last light of the evening. The cafe is a mixture of old and new, Ottoman soldiers sitting alongside Byzantines, their faces weary but resigned to the reality of their new world. The smell of freshly baked bread and spices fills the air, a comforting reminder of the simple pleasures of life. You sit down at a table, your thoughts wandering as the sun dips below the horizon, casting the city in a golden glow. It's hard to reconcile the vibrant past of Constantinople with the quiet present. The echoes of the old city are still there, lingering just beneath the surface, waiting for someone to remember as the evening draws on. You notice that the city seems to settle into a new rhythm. The hustle and bustle of the day fades into the quiet of night, and the once vibrant streets of Constantinople seem to breathe again, albeit more slowly, more cautiously. There are fewer voices now, fewer footsteps on the streets, as the people retreat to their homes for the night. The stars begin to appear above, casting their light over the city's ruins, and for a brief moment, you feel as though you're standing at the crossroads of two worlds, one slipping away, the other pushing forward. The last of the light fades from the horizon, and the city's silhouette is swallowed by the night. The once glorious empire is no more, but in the quiet darkness, you realize that Constantinople will never truly fall. It lives on in the stories, in the memories, in the hearts of those who remember its glory, its struggles, and its final days, and perhaps, that is the true legacy of Constantinople. Not its walls or its empires, but the spirit of a city that stood the test of time, even when the world around it was forever changed. Months turn to years, and the once vibrant streets of Constantinople become familiar to you in a way that feels both new and nostalgic. The city, though forever altered, continues its rhythm. The Ottoman presence is now inseparable from the city, and yet, the pulse of its former Byzantine heart beats on in subtle ways. There are moments when the past seems to brush up against the present, where the ancient spirit of Constantinople lingers in the corners of the streets, in the faces of its people. You've come to know the city better now. The narrow alleys that were once foreign and mysterious are now paths you walk with a certain comfort, as if you've always belonged here. The stonework of the Byzantine ruins feels more like an old friend with whom you've shared many conversations. The great walls that once stood proudly as the last defense of the empire are now reduced to jagged remains, their majesty faded, but still standing. In the distance, the Bosporus flows endlessly, a reminder that time, like the water, moves forward regardless of what has come before. The city continues to rebuild, but in a way that is both forward-looking and reluctant. The new Ottoman structures rise next to the ruins, each new mosque or caravanserai a sign of change. But the Byzantines still find their way into the fabric of the city. There are whispers of old religious practices, hidden in plain sight, preserved in the shadow of Ottoman rule. Churches are converted into mosques, yes, but the old iconography, hidden behind newly painted walls, speaks to the city's memory. The old ways are not easily erased. The city has always been a place of convergence, a meeting point for East and West, for Christendom and Islam. It has never been easy to define, and even now, in the wake of its fall, it defies simple categorization. You wander through the streets, noticing the subtle blend of the old and new that surrounds you. The great Hagia Sophia remains at the center of the city, its minarets now part of the skyline, towering above the remains of the basilica. It is here, where the Byzantine Empire and Ottoman Empire meet in the most striking way, that you feel the weight of history pressing down. Inside, the calls to prayer mix with the echoes of long-lost chants from the days when it was a Christian church. The mosaics are still there, though hidden, and if you look closely enough, you can catch glimpses of the ancient Christian past that remains, not erased, but layered beneath the surface. The sounds of Constantinople's past still ripple through the present. The call of the muezzin echoes through the air, mingling with the chatter of the markets, the laughter of children, and the clang of blacksmiths' hammers. This city, though forever changed, has not lost its ability to adapt, to reinvent itself, to continue despite everything that has been lost. You make your way down to the waterfront once again, where the Bosporus gleams under the moonlight. The Ottoman ships are still anchored in the harbor, their sails gently rippling in the night breeze. But you know that the soul of Constantinople is not to be found on the water. The soul of this city lies in the streets, among the people who continue to live here, who carry with them the stories of a once great empire. The children who run through the streets, laughing, unaware of the weight of their city's history, carry with them the memory of a place that once ruled the known world. You stop on a bridge overlooking the Bosporus, gazing out over the water that once brought merchants, scholars, and conquerors to the city. The waves lap gently at the shores, a constant, timeless rhythm that seems to carry the weight of the city's past and its future. Constantinople, or Istanbul, as it is now called, has been claimed, reshaped, and reborn. But in the stillness of the night, as the water flows beneath you, you know that it will never lose its soul. The story of Constantinople, like the water itself, will continue to flow, carried by the memories of those who lived here and the history that shaped the world. That as you stand there, lost in the quiet beauty of the moment, you realize that even in its fall, Constantinople was never truly defeated. Its legacy lives on, not just in the buildings, the walls, or the ruins, but in the people who continue to call this city home. In every street, every stone, every breath of wind, the memory of the city that once stood at the crossroads of the world is carried forward. The city may have changed, but its heart beats on. As the years continue to pass, you begin to notice the city's transformation on a deeper level, one that goes beyond the surface, beyond the Ottoman structures and the layers of history that have been built upon the Byzantine ruins. The streets, now more familiar, are filled with a mixture of Ottoman and Byzantine influences. The old world and the new continue to coexist, albeit with the new rulers claiming the lion's share of space in the city's future. The old churches that remain are still a quiet testament to the city's past. Their domes stand against the sky, though many are now repurposed for Islamic prayer. The mosaics, once covered in gold and depicting biblical scenes, peek through cracks in the plaster, their radiance dimmed but not erased. And here, in the quiet recesses of these ancient spaces, you can still feel the pulse of what was, a faint echo of a past that has been buried beneath the weight of conquest, but not forgotten. You wander into one of the smaller churches in the city, one of the few that has remained largely untouched by the hand of Ottoman renovation. Inside, the air is cool and filled with the scent of incense, and the flickering light of candles illuminates the faces of the saints painted on the walls. Though the call to prayer echoes from the nearby mosque, there's still a reverence here, a sense of something sacred that lingers in the stillness. You sit for a moment, allowing the quiet to wash over you, and you feel, in that small space, the long history of this city, of empires, of peoples, of faiths, that have lived side by side, sometimes in peace, sometimes in conflict, but always intertwined. In the markets, you see more Ottoman goods now. Spices, fabrics, weapons, but you also see traces of the old Byzantine culture woven into the fabric of the city. Greek Orthodox priests walk through the marketplace, their robes flowing behind them, their heads held high, a quiet acknowledgement of the legacy they still carry. The Byzantine spirit, though overshadowed, is not gone. It lingers in the food, in the traditions, in the songs that still echo through the streets, though many now hum in the quieter corners. Where Ottoman rule cannot quite reach, you cross over to the Golden Horn once again, the water as steady and deep as ever. The ships still dock here, though they are now Ottoman vessels, their flags flapping proudly in the breeze. But for all the changes, the sea remains constant. The Bosporus still reflects the city's sky, its waters still stretching from Asia to Europe, from past to future. You stand on the shores, watching the waters flow beneath the bridges, and you know that, just as the city is being rebuilt, so too is its story. The Ottoman Empire is now the face of this city, and as you walk through its streets, you see more of its influence taking hold. The mosques rise high, their minarets casting long shadows over the ancient Byzantine columns that still stand proudly in the background. The call to prayer fills the air, mingling with the soft murmur of traders, the laughter of children, and the low hum of life that moves forward. The old world and the new are blending, sometimes with ease, sometimes with struggle, but they are part of the same story. You meet an older woman near the edge of the Bosporus one evening, her face lined with age, but her eyes sharp with the memory of a different time. She speaks to you in Greek, though you know she's seen much change in her lifetime. Her words are slow, careful, as she talks of the city's past, of the days before the Ottomans arrived, when Constantinople was still the heart of the Byzantine Empire. Her voice trembles slightly, but there is pride in it. It was never just the buildings, she tells you. It was the people, the way we lived, the way we prayed, the way we shared this city. It's all in us still. Her words stay with you as you walk away, the weight of them lingering in your chest. The city has changed, yes, but the soul of Constantinople is more than just its buildings or its rulers. It is in the people, in their memories, their stories, their ability to endure. It is in the way the old and new intersect, in the quiet reverence for what once was, and in the steadfast hope that the spirit of the city will continue, no matter who claims it. As the days grow shorter and the shadows lengthen, you find yourself walking through the streets with a sense of peace, a sense of finality. Constantinople, or Istanbul as it is now known, has been claimed by the Ottomans, but it will always belong to the memory of those who lived here before. It is a city of layers, layers of history, of cultures, of people. And as the night falls and the city's lights flicker to life, you realize that, even in the face of change, Constantinople's story is far from finished. It will be carried on by those who remember, by those who walk these streets, by those who continue to breathe life into this great city. You take one last look at the Bosporus, its waters reflecting the first stars of the evening, and you know that the soul of Constantinople will never truly fall. It lives on, in every whisper of the wind, in every corner of the city, and in the hearts of those who will always carry its legacy. The years continue their slow march, and the city, though no longer the shining jewel it once was, thrives in its own quiet way. The Ottoman Empire, with its new and steady rule, has brought stability to a city that once lived in the shadow of conquest. But there is still something in the air, a feeling that no matter how much time passes, Constantinople will never fully shed its past. It will always carry the weight of what it once was. You walk through the city again, but this time with a sense of understanding. The changes, the shifts in power, they're all part of the natural ebb and flow of history. But there are moments when you can still see the remnants of the old Constantinople, tucked away in hidden corners and secret places, like forgotten memories waiting to be discovered. The Byzantine influence still lingers in the simplest of things, the curved arches of a doorway, the intricate mosaics in a forgotten church, the remnants of ancient aqueducts hidden beneath the streets. The city, in its own way, remembers. And for those who know where to look, the old world is still there, woven into the fabric of the new point one afternoon. As the golden light of the setting sun filters through the minarets of the mosque and casts long shadows over the Bosporus, you find yourself at the top of a hill that overlooks the city. The skyline is a mix of the ancient and the modern. The towering minarets of Ottoman mosques stand proud against the skyline, but in the distance, you can make out the jagged remains of the ancient walls that once protected the city, now crumbling and forgotten by most. Yet, they still hold a kind of quiet beauty, a reminder of a time when this city was the heart of an empire. From here, you can see the Bosporus stretching out before you, the water glistening under the fading light, a ribbon that ties together two worlds. The city itself feels like it's suspended in time, caught between what it was and what it has become. The past and the present meet in a delicate balance, as if the city is holding its breath, waiting for something, anything, to guide it forward. You've come to understand that the soul of Constantinople isn't something that can be easily claimed or destroyed. It's not in the walls or the monuments. It's in the people, in the lives lived in its streets, in the stories passed from one generation to the next. The city's past, its legacy, will continue to be carried by those who remain, by those who choose to remember. The people who live here now are a mixture of Ottomans and those who have lived here for generations, a blend of cultures that continues to shape the city in new ways. There are moments when the differences are sharp, when the Ottoman influence feels overwhelming, but there are also moments when the past and the present come together in unexpected ways. You stop at a small cafe by the Bosporus, watching as the sun sinks lower in the sky. An elderly man sits at a table nearby, smoking a pipe and watching the boats drift by. He's wearing an old, tattered coat, and his eyes are distant, lost in thought. You wonder if he remembers a time before the Ottomans, a time when Constantinople was the center of the Byzantine Empire. But as he looks out over the water, you see that he carries the same quiet dignity that has been passed down through generations. There's no anger in his gaze, no bitterness, only acceptance. The city has changed, the empire is gone, but the people remain. And in the quiet moments like this, it becomes clear that the true spirit of Constantinople lives on, not in the grand palaces or the towering monuments, but in the resilience of its people. Their ability to adapt, to endure, and to carry forward the memory of a city that once stood at the crossroads of the world. As the stars begin to twinkle above, you sit back and take in the scene. The Bosporus stretches out before you, the city of Constantinople, now Istanbul, alive and breathing under the night sky. The city may have fallen, but it has not disappeared. Its spirit remains in the hearts of those who remember, in the stories that continue to be told, in the small acts of defiance and resilience that persist despite all odds. The fall of Constantinople was not the end of its story. It was merely the beginning of a new chapter. One that, like the city itself, will continue to evolve, but never forget its roots. The memory of the city will live on, passed down through generations, carried in the hearts of those who still walk its streets, still feel its pulse beneath the modern world. And so, as the night deepens, you stand there, by the Bosporus, gazing at the stars that have watched over this city for centuries. The city has changed, but its story continues. And that, in the end, is what matters. Constantinople, in all its forms, will never truly fall. This legacy lives on now and forever. The seasons shift in their quiet dance, and Constantinople, now Istanbul, continues to move through time. The ebb and flow of history is written in the quiet hum of daily life. The market vendors calling out their wares, the rhythmic call to prayer that rises over the rooftops, the laughter of children playing in the shadow of Ottoman mosques. The city has become something else entirely, a mix of cultures, of past and present. But in its core, the same spirit remains, a spirit that once defined the great empire and still pulses beneath the surface of the modern city. It's easy to get lost in the familiar streets, the winding alleys that twist and turn like the threads of a tapestry that has been woven for centuries. The old and the new are interwoven here, with Ottoman influences sitting comfortably beside Byzantine ruins. The once great city that was home to emperors, scholars, and artists is now a vibrant, living metropolis. A crossroads between East and West, where every step feels like a journey through time. Today, you walk the streets of Sultanahmet, the heart of the city. The area is filled with tourists now, their faces wide with wonder as they gaze upon the ancient ruins and the great domes of the Hagia Sophia. The mosque stands proudly, a symbol of the Ottoman victory, but it is also a reminder of a city that has always been something more than just a place of conquest. The Hagia Sophia, once a center of Byzantine Christianity, now holds the space of both faiths. Its grandeur speaks to the shared history of the people who have lived here. As you approach, the minarets rise against the sky, their sharp, clean lines a testament to the Ottomans' architectural mastery. The sound of the muezzin fills the air, but it's met by the soft hum of conversation, the clash of cultures that defines the city. You walk through the gates of the Hippodrome again, the ancient stadium that once held thousands of spectators, cheering on chariot races, watching grand spectacles of power and pride. It's quieter now, but the echoes of those races, those moments of history, still linger in the air. The great obelisk stands tall in the center, its hieroglyphs worn smooth by centuries of weather and wear, a relic of an Egypt that once ruled much of the ancient world. You can almost hear the distant cheering of a crowd, their voices rising into the air, a sound that, while long gone, is still carried by the stones and the earth beneath your feet as you stand in the Hippodrome. A group of children runs past you, laughing as they chase each other, their voices sharp against the quiet of the space. They are unaware of the history that surrounds them, unaware of the centuries of bloodshed, of victory, and of loss that have shaped this place. And yet, in their joy, you realize that the city continues to live. Its soul, its heart, its pulse carried by those who have come after. The children are the future of the city, the future of a place that has seen the rise and fall of empires, that has borne witness to the weight of history and still found ways to endure. The world around you has changed, and the city has changed with it. The great walls that once protected Constantinople are now little more than ruins, their jagged edges a reminder of a time long past. Yet the spirit of the city, the energy, the fire, the pulse, still remains. The people may have been replaced, the empires may have shifted, but the essence of this place endures, woven into the very fabric of the city itself. You continue your journey through the streets, and as the day fades into night, you make your way to the Galata Bridge. The bridge spans the Golden Horn, the water stretching out before you like a dark ribbon of history. The ships that once sailed these waters, bringing trade and knowledge to the heart of the empire, are still there, though now they are Ottoman in name. The water flows steadily beneath the bridge, a constant, as it has for centuries, carrying with it the memories of what this city once was and what it continues to be as you stand on the bridge. Watching the lights twinkle in the distance, you think about the journey this city has taken. It has survived wars, sieges, conquests, and the passage of time. It has weathered the loss of empires, the shifting of cultures, and the rise and fall of civilizations. Yet, here it is, still standing, still breathing, still alive. The sun dips below the horizon, and the sky is painted with the rich colors of evening. The city, lit by the glow of streetlights and the distant flicker of candles in windows, seems to breathe. And in that moment, you realize that Constantinople has never truly fallen. It lives on in the stories of those who have come before, in the memories of those who remember, and in the hearts of those who continue to walk its streets. The city, in all its forms, will continue to rise and fall, to change and endure. It will never be just a memory. It will always be a living, breathing testament to the resilience of time, a city that defies the very notion of defeat. Constantinople lives on. As the years unfurl, Istanbul, Constantinople, settles into a rhythm that is both timeless and ever-changing. The layers of history that have accumulated over the centuries, from the height of Byzantine glory to the dominance of the Ottomans, have woven this city into something intricate, something impossible to define with one word or one perspective. The city now stands as a testament to resilience, to survival, and to the never-ending ebb and flow of human history. You walk these streets once more, but with a different sense of purpose. The weight of the past is no longer a burden, but a guide. It helps you navigate through the complexity of this place, to see it not only as it is now, but as it once was. The familiar sights, the bustling market streets, the call to prayer, the vibrancy of life on the Bosporus, are mixed with remnants of the past that seem to peek out from every corner. It's not the ruins that speak the loudest, but the echoes of what came before. The sounds of life that continue to move through the city, carrying the memory of what once was. The Hagia Sophia remains at the center of it all, a symbol of the city's layered identity. The mosque's minarets rise above the skyline, their sharp, clean lines defining the modern city, but the history of this place, the echoes of Byzantine Christianity, still resonate within the walls. In the quiet corners, when the crowds have dispersed, you can almost hear the whispers of ancient prayers, of chants that once filled the great hall. Though it has been transformed, repurposed for a new time, the Hagia Sophia still carries within it the spirit of what it once was. You find yourself drawn to the Bosporus again, the water stretching out in front of you like a ribbon connecting two continents, two worlds. The ships that pass by, freighters, ferries, private yachts, are all a part of the city's heartbeat now. But beneath it all, you can still feel the weight of the city's history in the water, as though the waves themselves carry stories from the past, memories of the city's rise and fall. As you stand at the water's edge, a cool breeze brushes against your skin. You can almost see the past unfold before you. The ancient Roman and Byzantine ships that once sailed these waters, the trade that flowed through the city's harbors, the cultural exchanges that took place in the shadow of the Great Walls. You can feel the pulse of the city as it moved from empire to empire, adapting, evolving, and enduring. The Ottoman legacy is deeply woven into the fabric of this city, but even now you can feel traces of the older world. The city's heart is still Byzantine, still Roman, still the crossroads of East and West. The layers of history are both visible and invisible, stitched together by the people who continue to walk these streets, who continue to live in the shadow of the past. Each person you pass is a link in the long chain that stretches back through the centuries, from the time of Constantine to the present day. As the sun sets, casting long shadows across the city, you find yourself at the foot of the Galata Tower, looking out over the rooftops of the city. The spires of mosques, the domes of churches, and the remnants of Byzantine buildings all form a mosaic that tells the story of a city that has lived through the rise and fall of empires, through centuries of conflict and peace. The city has endured, and so, it seems, has its soul. You think of the people who have lived here over the centuries. The emperors, the soldiers, the scholars, the artisans, the merchants. They are all gone now, but their legacy remains, carried forward by those who live here today. Istanbul is a living, breathing monument to their lives, to their stories. The city may have changed, but it is still the same at its core. Resilient, unyielding, and always moving forward. As the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky, you realize that the story of Constantinople, of Istanbul, is not one that can be easily told in a single narrative. It is a story of layers, of past and present, of triumph and loss, of empires that have come and gone, but a city that remains. The city is still here, and so is its story. It will continue, as it always has, moving forward into the future while holding the past in its embrace. And as you walk through the streets once more, you know that no matter what happens next, Constantinople will never truly fall. It lives on in the hearts of those who remember, in the stories that continue to be told, in the lives that are lived here every day. Constantinople has fallen, yes, but Istanbul lives. It always will. Years slip by like the gentle ebb of the Bosporus, and Istanbul, Constantinople, is no longer just a place you visit, but a city that you've come to understand in the quietest of ways. Its streets, once filled with the clamor of empires, now hum with the rhythms of modern life, but the pulse of its ancient heart still beats beneath the surface. The city's transformation, though undeniable, is not something that erases the past. Instead, it is something that builds upon it layer by layer, stone by stone, creating a city that is a living monument to all that has come before. You find yourself walking through the city once more, but this time you walk with a deeper understanding of its soul. The walls, though no longer protecting the empire they once guarded, still stand as silent sentinels, watching as the city moves forward. The streets are filled with the energy of life, people rushing to and fro, traffic weaving through the chaos, children playing in the parks, merchants selling their wares. But there's a quietness here too, a reflective stillness that only those who truly know the city can understand. You pass by the Grand Bazaar, its stalls filled with everything from spices to silk to jewelry. The colors and smells are as vibrant as ever, but there's a certain calmness in the way the merchants interact with the shoppers, a kind of reverence for the tradition of trade that has defined the city for centuries. You can almost hear the whispers of the ancient merchants who once walked these same streets, carrying goods from all corners of the world, building bridges between east and west. The bazaar, though now a bustling market for tourists and locals alike, is still a place where the spirit of the past lingers. Not far from the bazaar, you make your way to the famous Topkapi Palace, the former seat of the Ottoman sultans. The palace, though now a museum, still feels alive with history. You walk through its courtyards, past the magnificent courtyards where the sultans once held court, and you realize that the building itself holds the memory of the empire it once housed. The intricate tilework, the grand halls, and the ornate gardens all speak to the splendor of the Ottoman period, but they also carry the weight of the centuries. The palace is no longer a seat of power, but it remains a symbol of the city's grandeur. As you walk through the palace's gardens, you stop to gaze at the view of the Golden Horn, where the waters still reflect the soft glow of the setting sun. The ships that once sailed into the city, bringing wealth and knowledge from across the world, now glide silently across the water, carrying with them the history of the city. The Bosporus still connects two continents, and in its waters, you can feel the history of Constantinople and Istanbul mingling together, flowing into one another like the waters themselves. The sun sets, casting a warm golden light across the city, and you find yourself standing at the edge of the Galata Bridge, watching the boats pass by. The city has changed, yes. It has been reshaped by centuries of rulers and conquerors, by the rise and fall of empires, but in this moment, it feels timeless. The past is still present here, in the architecture, in the people, in the very stones that make up the city's foundations. It's not a city that has forgotten its history. It's a city that has embraced it, that has made it a part of who it is today. As you walk away from the water, you notice a small group of people gathered in the square, their voices rising in song. It's a simple tune, a folk song perhaps, but it is a reminder that even in the face of everything the city has endured, the spirit of Constantinople still lives on. The music, the voices, the laughter, they are all part of the city's soul, a soul that refuses to be lost in the dust of history. You walk through the streets once more, each step carrying you deeper into the heart of the city. The world around you is moving forward, but the city's past is still with you, still lingering in the shadows of the buildings, in the faces of the people, in the stories they tell. Istanbul may have risen from the ashes of Constantinople, but it is still Constantinople at its core. Still the city that stood at the crossroads of civilizations, still the city that shaped the world. And as the stars begin to twinkle in the sky, you know that the story of Constantinople is far from over. It is a story that will continue to be told, not just in the pages of history books, but in the hearts of those who remember, in the lives of those who walk these streets, in the spirit of the city itself. Constantinople may have fallen, but Istanbul stands. A city reborn, but never forgetting what it once was. The seasons change again, and Istanbul, once Constantinople, carries on as it always has, adapting, evolving, and carrying the weight of history in the shadows of its vibrant streets. The ancient city is no longer the empire at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, but the heartbeat of a modern metropolis that stands as a bridge between East and West. The old world and the new intertwine here, in the same way they always have. The city pulses with a quiet energy, a reflection of its rich and storied past. You find yourself walking the streets once more, the familiar sights greeting you like old friends. The sound of the muezzin's call to prayer still fills the air, but now it mingles with the hum of traffic, the chatter of tourists, and the lively pace of a modern city. The Ottoman legacy is everywhere, visible in the minarets that pierce the skyline, in the mosques that the landscape, but there are still moments, fleeting, quiet moments, when the ghosts of the past seem to rise up from the cobblestones as you pass through the streets. You notice how time continues to layer itself upon this city. The ancient and the modern coexist in a delicate dance. One step forward, one step back. The Byzantine ruins still stand, their marble columns rising above the modern city like silent sentinels, holding the memory of a time long gone. The great walls of Constantinople, though partially crumbled, still mark the boundaries of the old city, and in some places, the stones of the past are woven into the fabric of the present. A new building rises, and beneath it, ancient bricks are uncovered, revealing a history that refuses to be hidden. You cross the Galata Bridge again, watching the fishermen who line the sides, casting their lines into the water, their faces weathered and calm, as if they, too, have seen centuries pass. The Golden Horn glimmers beneath the setting sun, a river that has connected so much of the world throughout the ages. Ships still glide across the waters, bringing goods from distant lands, and the sounds of the bustling harbor fill the air. And though the world has changed, the water flows as it always has, a steady reminder of the city's unbroken connection to the past. You stop for a moment, letting the rhythm of the water calm you. The city stretches out before you, a patchwork of old and new. The new mosques that have been built on the foundations of Byzantine churches, the Ottoman palaces that rise above the skyline, and the narrow alleyways that still hold the secrets of a time long gone. In the distance, the minarets of the Blue Mosque stand proud, their sharp lines cutting through the sky like a beacon. The Hagia Sophia, still standing tall, its dome watching over the city like a guardian, offers a silent reminder of all that was, and all that remains. The city is still here, still alive. The ancient empire may have fallen, but Istanbul has never ceased to exist. It has moved through time, bending and shaping itself to fit the present, but it has always carried its history with it. The ruins are still there, the old stories still alive in the hearts of the people. Istanbul is a city that cannot be forgotten, for it is the sum of its parts, the Byzantine, the Ottoman, and now the modern. The city is not simply a place, but a living entity, a narrative written in stone, water, and memory. You continue your walk through the city, your footsteps echoing in the narrow streets. The modern world surrounds you, cafes, shops, and the constant hum of life, but there are still reminders of the past. The remnants of the old city, the fragments of a world long gone, still embedded in the foundation of the new one. The city's history is not something that can be swept away by time. It lives on in the people who walk these streets, in the stories they tell, and in the memories that continue to shape the future as the evening sun sets. Casting long shadows over the city, you feel a deep sense of peace. The city may have changed, the empire may have fallen, but the spirit of Constantinople still lives. It is not defined by the walls that have crumbled or the empires that have come and gone. It is defined by the people who have called it home, by the cultures that have mingled here, by the stories that have been passed down through generations. And so, as you stand on the edge of the Bosporus, watching the city bathe in the fading light, you know that the spirit of Constantinople will never be extinguished. It is alive, woven into the fabric of Istanbul itself. The city has endured, through empires, through change, through time, and it will continue to endure, as long as there are people who remember, who carry its stories forward. Constantinople may have fallen, but Istanbul will never fall. It will always rise, always adapt, always breathe. As the years stretch on, Istanbul, Constantinople, remains both anchored in the past and hurtling forward into the future. The city is a paradox, a place where time is neither linear nor stagnant. It exists in a constant state of change, yet beneath all the modern developments and shifts, the heartbeat of the city remains rooted in its ancient legacy. The towering skyscrapers that dot the skyline seem to bow to the centuries-old mosques, their minarets still pointing toward the heavens, a reminder of the city's once unassailable position at the crossroads of civilizations. You continue to walk through these streets, your steps moving from the past into the present, following the same roads that emperors, traders, and travelers once tread. Istanbul's grand monuments still dominate the skyline. The Hagia Sophia, now a museum, still an enduring symbol of the city's ability to embrace both the Byzantine and Ottoman worlds. The Blue Mosque stands proud, a beautiful testament to Ottoman architecture, its wide courtyard filled with the steady rhythm of pilgrims. And yet, in between these grand, timeless structures, life continues with an energy that is unmistakably modern. You notice the change most when you cross the city's ancient neighborhoods, where the narrow streets and old homes have been transformed into vibrant markets, bustling cafes, and lively shops. The old wooden houses that once held the stories of Byzantine aristocrats now house artists, musicians, and modern professionals, their windows open to the city's symphony of sounds. Istanbul, it seems, has embraced the future without forgetting the past as you make your way through the narrow streets of the Grand Bazaar. You feel a familiar sense of awe, just as the merchants of old once traded spices, textiles, and jewelry. Today the market is filled with a tapestry of sounds and colors that transport you back in time. You pass vendors calling out to you in a mix of Turkish, Arabic, Greek, and even a few words of English. Their stalls are overflowing with goods, scarves from Egypt, lamps from Morocco, Turkish delights stacked high in shimmering pyramids. And there's a sense of energy here, a reminder that this city, though rooted in history, is still a place of connection, exchange, and living tradition. Yet, even amid this modern bustle, the past lingers in small moments. You pause by a street corner and catch sight of an old man sitting by the edge of a fountain, his hands steady as he works on a delicate mosaic of tiles. He's creating something that looks ancient, but the patterns are new, modernized renditions of Byzantine art. His fingers move slowly, with care, as he places each tile, an echo of an art form that once filled the great churches of the city. His work is meticulous, but it's more than just craftsmanship. It's a quiet rebellion against the forces of time that seek to erase all traces of the past. You stand there for a while, watching him, and realize that this is what Constantinople, what Istanbul, is. It is not a city of either slash or past or present, old or new. It is a city of both, of balance, of harmony. The old world and the new intertwine, not as a struggle, but as a beautiful, dynamic conversation. And in this conversation, the city remains alive, ever-changing, ever-evolving. The Bosporus flows steadily beside the city, its waters mirroring the constant flux of Istanbul's identity. The ships that once brought goods from the farthest corners of the earth continue to sail into the city's waters, and the trade routes are as vital as ever. The bridges that span the Bosporus now connect two continents, but more than that, they symbolize the link between Istanbul's diverse histories and futures, just as they have for centuries. The city may have transformed under Ottoman rule, and then again in the modern era, but the spirit of Constantinople, of trade, of exchange, of a city that once connected worlds, remains unbroken. You walk along the water's edge, the scent of the sea mingling with the spice-laden air from the markets. The sounds of the city fade as the evening light falls over the water, casting long, soft shadows over the bridges and mosques. In the stillness, you can almost hear the whispers of those who have come before, the emperors, the scholars, the merchants, the fishermen, each of them leaving a piece of themselves in the city's bones. Constantinople may have fallen, but Istanbul has carried its soul forward, carrying the weight of history on its shoulders, but never letting it crush the city's spirit as the night deepens. The lights of the city come to life. The Bosporus sparkles with the reflection of the city's lights, and the streets hum with the energy of life. The city, like its waters, never stops moving, never stays still. There's a quiet magic in the air tonight, an understanding that this city, though it has been conquered, rebuilt, and reshaped, will continue to be something more, something timeless. And as you stand on the shore, looking out over the shimmering water, you realize that Istanbul is a city of endless reinvention. It may have fallen to the Ottomans, but its soul has never fallen. It has adapted, grown, and changed, but it has never lost its heart. It will never truly fall because its story is written not only in the buildings and monuments but in the people, the lives, and the memories that continue to pulse through its streets. As the years drift into decades, Istanbul, Constantinople, remains a city caught between worlds. Its identity is as fluid as the waters of the Bosporus that divide Europe from Asia, and yet, it retains the deep echoes of its past, reverberating through its streets, its buildings, its people. It's a city of convergence, where empires, cultures, and religions meet, and even now, in the modern world, this intersection remains the very heart of the city's spirit. Walking through the city today, you can sense the change that has settled into the bones of the place. Modernity has come in full force, new buildings, new infrastructure, and a bustling urban energy that is unmistakably 21st century. The streets are filled with the hum of modern life, cars rushing by, the chatter of street vendors selling everything from simits to socks, the bright lights of cafes and restaurants that stay open long into the night. There's an urgency to the pace now, a lively, pulsing beat that feels miles away from the solemnity of the city's ancient history. But this frenetic energy, this bustle of life, is tempered by the quiet undercurrent of the city's past. The grand mosques, the minarets that rise above the skyline, the walls that once protected the city, all of them stand proudly as symbols of Istanbul's unyielding resilience. You can hear the call to prayer echoing across the rooftops, and while the voices of the past may seem distant, they are never far away. The city, even as it evolves, carries its past forward with grace as you make your way down the busy streets near the Grand Bazaar. You pause for a moment to watch the crowds that flow through the market. Tourists and locals alike move through the maze of narrow lanes, weaving in and out of shops that are stacked high with everything from carpets to spices. It's a place that's as alive today as it ever was, but now, it's a symbol of both the enduring nature of Istanbul's legacy and the vibrant fusion of the old world and the new. The market is still, in many ways, a living museum, each corner of it holding something ancient. The old tools, the hand-woven textiles, the intricate glass lamps that hang from the ceiling like pieces of art. The vendors, some of whom are the children of those who sold their wares here decades ago, still carry the same passion for their craft. They speak in a variety of languages, from Turkish to Arabic to English, their voices loud as they make their sales. Yet there is an unspoken respect for the history that surrounds them. The bazaar has witnessed the rise and fall of empires, and yet, it remains steadfast, as much a part of Istanbul's soul as the walls that once protected the city. You move through the streets toward the waterfront, where the ships still dock in the harbor. The Bosporus stretches out before you, the water dark and serene, reflecting the glow of the city lights. The view is breathtaking. On one side of you, the European continent stretches out, and on the other, the Asian side beckons. You realize that this city, which has been at the center of so much history, continues to sit on the boundary between two worlds, the past and the future, the East and the West. The ferries that cross the Bosporus are a perfect example of this dichotomy. They are old, weathered by time, but still in motion, carrying passengers between two continents in just a few minutes. The ferries are packed with people, both locals and tourists, all of them on their way somewhere. It's an image of the city's constant motion, the daily rhythm that never stops. You take a seat on one of the benches along the water's edge, watching as the city hums around you. There's a quiet peace here, a space where the energy of the city slows for a moment. As you gaze at the skyline, the minarets, the mosques, the ancient walls, and the modern glass buildings that now rise alongside them, you feel a profound sense of connection to the city's past. The weight of its history presses gently against you, but there's no sorrow in it, only the quiet understanding that this city, this incredible ancient place, has lived through it all. The rise and fall of empires, the shifts of culture, the invasions, the triumphs, the defeats. It has all been written into the city's fabric, and yet it endures. Perhaps that's the most remarkable thing about Istanbul. It doesn't just survive, it thrives. It carries its history with grace, integrating it into the rhythms of modern life, letting it guide the present without being overtaken by it to end this moment. As the sound of the city rises and falls around you, you understand that Constantinople is not merely a place of the past, but a living entity that continues to shape the future. Its influence still reaches across the world, its legacy carried forward in the stories that continue to be told, in the people who walk its streets, in the cultures that meet here, and in the steady flow of the Bosporus, which connects everything and everyone. Istanbul will continue to change, to grow, to evolve. It will move forward into a future that, like its past, is both unpredictable and inevitable. But through all the changes, one thing will remain certain. The spirit of Constantinople, the heart of this remarkable city, will never fade. It is woven into the very fabric of Istanbul, carried forward by every generation, every step, every breath of the city. Constantinople may have fallen, but Istanbul, its soul, will rise again and again, forever. The dawn of a new day paints the sky with hues of orange and pink, casting a soft glow over the skyline of Istanbul. The city is waking up, as it always does, stretching itself toward the new day, eager to begin again. The hum of life fills the air, and yet, there is something timeless about it all. The call to prayer rises from the minarets, joined by the steady sounds of the city's movement. Footsteps on cobblestone streets, the rattle of cart wheels, the low hum of traffic weaving through the city's veins. You find yourself once more standing on the Galata Bridge, watching the ebb and flow of the water below. The Bosporus, as always, reflects the morning light, its surface calm, unbroken, an eternal witness to the passage of time. The ships, both modern and old, pass along its waters, connecting the two continents, and you realize that in this moment, Istanbul is more than just a city. It is a living, breathing testament to history, to survival, and to the power of change. The city has transformed so many times over the centuries. First the Greeks, then the Romans, the Byzantines, the Ottomans, and now the modern world. And yet, Istanbul stands, its spirit unbroken, its heart still beating. The ruins of the past blend effortlessly with the modern skyline, reminding you that this is a city that exists in both time and memory, in history and in the now. The ancient city of Constantinople has been reborn countless times, and as the world continues to shift, so too does the city. There is a quiet pride in the way the people of Istanbul carry on. They are not burdened by the weight of their city's past. They wear it like a cloak, a part of who they are, but they do not allow it to define them. The past is there, yes, but it is not a weight to carry. Instead, it is a gift to cherish, a reminder of everything this city has endured and everything it has achieved. Every step you take through its streets, every corner you turn, is another step in the ongoing narrative of a place that refuses to be forgotten. As you walk through the modern parts of the city, you notice the fusion of old and new, shops selling antiques alongside the latest fashion trends, sleek modern cafes next to ancient tea houses. The juxtaposition is striking, and yet it feels natural. Istanbul is a city that thrives on its contrasts. It is a city where centuries of history come together in a dance that is both harmonious and dissonant, where empires have come and gone, and where cultures have collided, creating something entirely new, entirely unique. You stop at a small cafe by the side of the street, a place where the tables spill out onto the sidewalk, and the scent of freshly brewed Turkish coffee fills the air. You sit, taking in the city around you. The hustle and bustle of the modern world continues on around you, but you find peace in the small moments. Watching an old woman haggle with a vendor, hearing the sound of children laughing in the street, feeling the soft breeze that carries with it the scent of the sea. These moments are timeless, and they remind you that, no matter how much Istanbul changes, it remains the same. The sun climbs higher in the sky, and the city begins to stir with even greater energy. The streets are crowded now, with people from all walks of life moving about, each person carrying their own piece of the city's legacy. The laughter of children echoes off the stone walls, and the calls of vendors fill the air. But there is a deep, abiding peace in the chaos. You feel it in the faces of the people, in their quiet resilience, in their understanding that they are a part of something much bigger than themselves. As you make your way through the city, you pass by the ruins of an ancient Byzantine church, its walls now adorned with Ottoman tiles. The contrast is striking, yet it is a reminder that in Istanbul, the past and present never truly part ways. They coexist, each shaping the other. The church, once a center of Christian worship, now stands as part of a living, evolving city, its walls holding stories that stretch back millennia. The city is a tapestry of these stories, woven together in intricate patterns, each thread representing a different era, a different chapter of history. And a small park. You find a group of elderly men sitting on a bench, their faces weathered with age but their eyes sharp with the wisdom of a lifetime spent in this city. They speak quietly in Turkish, their voices low and measured, but there is a warmth between them, a bond formed through years of shared experience. They have seen the city change, have lived through the fall of empires, the rise of new powers, and yet they remain, their spirits unbroken. In their quiet conversations, you hear the echoes of the city's past, stories of the emperors who once ruled, of the great battles fought for control of the city, and of the resilience that has defined Istanbul through the ages. You stop for a moment, listening to their conversation, and you realize that these men, in their simplicity, hold the essence of what Istanbul is. It is a city of resilience, a city of change, and a city that has, against all odds, continued to thrive. The stories of the past are not lost. They are carried in the hearts of those who remember, who have lived through it all, and who continue to live in the shadow of this great city. And in that moment, as you watch the sun sink behind the minarets, you understand something important. Constantinople may have fallen, but Istanbul has never truly been defeated. It has risen again and again, stronger each time, and its spirit will continue to carry it forward, for as long as there are those who remember and those who dream of what it can be.